Chapter 870. Her face was as round as a pie, and she was so fat that her flesh was about to fall off. There is no need to mention her figure. One could tell from the 20 on the panel that she was definitely twice as heavy as Luo Jinyan. Since people said that the previous host's mother gave birth to her in a perfunctory manner when she was 10, the previous host never wore female clothing again. Over time, many people thought that the Luo family only had 2 daughters and the other was a son. Luo Shu and Madame Luo's faces turned dark when they heard these rumors, but they were too lazy to explain. The previous host, who was quite fat, began to give up on herself. She ate at least 10 meals a day and wore the large custom-made clothes as she walked through the streets. Every time she was caught, she would be locked up for a night. She was already used to this, but people would always grow. When she was 15, she wore a large golden robe and fought with hoodlums on the streets. It was also that year that Qian Yin appeared in her line of sight. She still remembered his peerless appearance. His clothes were as white as snow, not tainted at all. The previous host, who had never had a love affair, was moved at that moment. When his slender fingers softly helped the previous host up, the previous host found that her palms couldn't help sweating. "Little brother, are you all right?" I'm fine." This was their first conversation. It was very short, but the previous host would never forget it. Later, the previous host learned that Qian Yi and was the martial arts scholar, and that was the day he entered the palace as an official. The previous host and Qian Yin met again a month later. When the previous host was walking through the streets in her golden robe again, Qian Yin called out to her. She looked back and saw Qian Yin wearing the clothes of the royal guards and fell into it again. This time, they became friends. They recited poems to the moon, drank tea together, and spent countless beautiful days together. Qian Yin knew that the previous host liked to eat, so he often brought some snacks from the palace for her. These days made the previous host think that she could tell him the truth, that she was actually a girl. But some accidents came in the end. Perhaps it wasn't an accident, but rather fate. That day, the original owner of the body was drinking wine at the Drunken Moon Pavilion while waiting for Qianya to finish his morning court session. The imperial guards worked in shifts and didn't have to stay in the palace every day. That day, she let Qian Yin see her big sister, the #1 beauty in the capital, Luo Jinyan. The previous host saw a faint sparkle in Qian Yin's deep eyes. It was very faint but very bright. "Quickly come home with me. Mother suddenly fainted and wants to see you." Luo Jinyan's words made her heart tremble. As soon as her voice fell, she looked at Qian Yin and in a daze. Qian Yin just gave a slight nod before looking at the previous host. "You go first." Although her mother always disliked her, she had never mistreated her. She had everything that Luo Jinyan had. After all, a mother was a mother. No matter how naughty her child was, she loved them from the bottom of her heart. That night, her mother had said a lot of things to her in front of the hospital bed. She had probably told her to take good care of her sister and not get into trouble. Her mother had left in a rush. It had only been 3 days since she fainted, but the Luo family had fallen into a deathly silence. Luo Shu had made many mistakes in court because of the pain of losing his beloved wife, causing the Luo family to fall into a decline. Chapter 871. The previous host had a strange feeling. It was that her big sister and the man she called brother were always looking at each other affectionately. At first, the Luo family didn't tell Qian Yin about the previous host's identity, and although he was proposing marriage, only Luo Shu knew who he was proposing marriage to. The other concubine's daughter, Luo Zhao Hexen, even thought that Qian Yin was proposing marriage to her, so she would appear in front of him from time to time. After Qian Yin lived in the Luo manor for a while, the previous host and he were still friends, and he and the previous host's big sister looked like a good match. However, no matter how much the original owner calculated, she did not expect this. When the emperor heard that Luo Jinyan was the #1 beauty of the capital, he directly appointed her as the crown princess. 3 months later, she married into the Eastern Palace. At that time, Luo Jinyan and the crown prince never met. The one Luo Jinyan loved the most in her life was her little sister who dressed as a man all day long. She was also worried about her the most. Before entering the palace, she said that she wanted to see the previous host get married to Qian Yin. What surprised the previous host was that Qian Yin agreed. After the previous host and Qian Yin got married, they respected each other, and the Luo family prepared for Luo Jin Yin to marry into the Eastern Palace. However, life wasn't perfect. Luo Zhao Xian took advantage of the fact that the two sisters lost their mother to make Luo Jin Yin lose her eyes. A woman who couldn't see naturally couldn't enter the Eastern Palace. Luo Shu had no choice. He could only let his other daughter Luo Zhao Xian marry into the palace. But he never thought that she would be rejected by the crown prince before they even met. At this point, Luo Zhao Xian became the laughingstock of the capital, and she lost all face. She hated Luo Jinyan, always bullying her when the previous host wasn't here. Finally, Qian Yin couldn't take it anymore and discussed with the previous host to bring Luo Jinyan to the Qian Manor. He never thought that the previous host would leave a letter and a divorce letter before leaving. The letter was very short. It was as follows: I always knew that you loved her and nothing happened between us. When you first saw her in the Drunken Moon Pavilion, I knew that your feelings for her were different. She loved me very much, and you were very good to me. Thank you for your help. This letter of divorce is my last shred of dignity. The previous host took a trip to the desert and found that Luo Jinyan was dead when she came back. Qian Yin and Luo Zhao Xian got married. Everything changed too quickly. It was like a bolt from the blue. She went to Luo Jinyan's grave in the deepest part of the burial mound. Her first reaction was to go to the Qian Manor to find Qian Yin. Qian Yin was surprised when he saw her, but he immediately calmed down. However, the woman who walked up behind her made her stomach churn. Qian Yi and Qian Yi Qian's mother Luo Qian Yes to Qian Yi. Qian Lu Qian's A's. T. Yi Nen S to be twos A. But she knew that she could not panic. After using a large amount of manpower, the previous host investigated Luo Jinyan's death. As she had guessed, it was indeed Luo Zhaoxin and her biological mother who had harmed her. Chapter 872. The previous host had lost all her reason and spent a large amount of money to gather a group of outlaws to charge into the Qian Manor in the middle of the night to kill people. She vaguely remembered that night, when Qian Yin and Luo Zhao Xian were still entangled, and she had lured him out of the room. In the end, she wasn't willing to let him die. That day, she was wearing a moon-white brocade with a plum blossom hairpin on her head, looking very beautiful. At that moment, it was like she could see Qian Yin's anxious eyes outside the room. But she smiled, a smile that tore her heart. She ignited her clothes with fire and hugged Luo Zhaoxin tightly, not giving her a chance to escape. At that moment, she wasn't afraid of pain or death. She kept thinking of everything that had happened between her and Luo Jinyan, as well as when she first met Qian Yin. If she could do it all over again, she definitely wouldn't have married Qian Yin. She would have helped her big sister. If the host has taken a long time to organize the previous host's story, it's already been 4 hours. I wish that I could organize it a bit longer. Luo Qingshun looked around the wooden hut. After all, I can go out in the morning. It seems like the host doesn't like the wooden hut that much. You like it? Luo Qingshun held the 2 lumps of fat on her face and said, System, are you certain that Qian Yin isn't the male lead? Please, is there a mistake? This body doesn't have any impression of the male lead Hua, Su Yi, all right? The previous host's memories came from Qian Yin and her big sister Luo Jinyan. There was no Hua Su Yi at all right? I'm certain it's not Qian Yin. The next morning, Luo Jinyan was already waiting at the door to open it for her. Although Madame Luo didn't give birth to her, she was still her daughter and couldn't bear to have her sleep in the wooden hut. Adding on the fact that Luo Jinyan was always on the side, it was just a punishment for thinking about it. Qing quickly come over. Luo Jinyan stood under the hot sun with a pale face and an anxious look on her face. Big sister. She gave a chuckle. After accepting all the memories and seeing Luo Jinyan, she was actually a bit moved. At that time, she hadn't married Qian Yin, and there was no news of Luo Jin Yin entering the Eastern Palace. Although the Luo family's influence in court wasn't good, Qian Yin often came to the Luo manor, and the ministers who didn't like Luo Shu couldn't say anything. After all, Qian Yin was the #1 imperial guard. I prepared your favorite snacks. You're hungry. Luo Jin Yin, Luo Jin Yin, Luo Jin Yin, Luo Jin Yans. Eat your fill, and then have a good sleep. Luo of her, but she of her of her, of her of her. She. He was already so fat. If he couldn't eat anymore, he might just die one day. Of her. Luo Jin Yin was stunned. She didn't expect her greedy little sister to say the word no. On the second day of being locked in the wooden hut, she would eat for an entire 2 hours. What is it? Don't scare big sister. Luo Jin Yin asked with a concerned look. It's nothing. Luo Qingshun pursed her lips and said, Big sister, I still have something to do. Let's talk later. Chapter 873. Luo Jin Yin, behind her, didn't understand what her little sister was doing at all. When she was about to call out to her, Qian Yin slowly came over with 2 steaming buns in his hand. Young Master Qian. Luo Jin Yan's eyes trembled as she looked at Qian Yin. Are you here this early to find father? Qian Yin was a bit surprised before giving a stiff nod. I'll bring the young master over. Luo Jin Yin lowered her head, and there was a faint blush on her white cheeks as her brows trembled slightly. All right, I'll have to trouble you. Qian Yin replied in a low voice before putting the 2 buns in his sleeve. At the same time, Luo Qingshun was standing in front of the mirror in her room, looking at her fat body with a worried look. She gave a sigh as she muttered, It really isn't easy to lose weight with this body. As soon as her voice fell, she ran to the table and wrote down a series of weight loss plans. It was like in the heart of every girl. Appearance was more important than the task itself. Then she had to lose half her weight. She had to be ruthless. Ruthless. The weight loss plan was as follows. 1. Run. 2. Swim. 3. Eat weight loss pills. After writing down the plan, she planned on going to the pharmacy. There was a reason for losing weight with Chinese medicine, so she had to try it. She changed out of the golden robe that the previous host liked to wear and put on a dark brown dress. After all, there was a saying, dark made you look thin. When she came out, she saw Luo Zhao Xin, who had been jumping recently. She didn't have a name on the panel and looked very normal. The only thing special about her was those red phoenix eyes that could seduce people. Adding in the perfect amount of makeup, she looked quite unique. The previous host's mother should still be alive, but her body wasn't good. Luo Shu wasn't bad in all aspects, but he couldn't control his desires at this age. Therefore, after going to the side room a few times, the concubine and Luo Zhao Xin became more arrogant. AI, isn't this big sister Qingshun? Oh no, big brother Qingshun. Luo Zhaoshan was wearing a dark blue lotus silk peepa top, and the 3-winged aureole feather hairpin on her head was swaying, making her look really unpleasant to the eyes. In the past, the original owner didn't like this little sister, but she didn't hate her either. Although she knew that she had some ulterior motives, as long as she didn't go too far, she didn't particularly care in most cases. Her sister, Luo Jin Yin, was even more so. It was because of the sister's modesty that this role that couldn't even be considered a supporting female lead had ruined her, and Luo Jin Yin, even becoming the main culprit for Qian Yi, and Luo Qingshun snorted coldly. The corner of her mouth moved, and she looked at her coldly. If you have something to say it quickly. If not, get lost. It was a simple sentence, but she said it with such strength and conviction. You? Luo Zhaoshan obviously didn't expect that she would suddenly speak to her in such a tone. In the past, no matter how much she ridiculed them, the 2 sisters would just laugh it off. Why did their attitude suddenly change today? Seeing that the original owner's temper wasn't good, she was too lazy to touch a nail. After all, her mother hadn't become the official wife yet. Although that official wife only had one last breath left, as long as she wasn't dead, she had no chips to fight them. Chapter 874. Her tone was very sharp, and there was a faint evil smile on her lips. While saying this, she looked in another direction. Fat! Luo Qingxian narrowed her eyes. As the saying goes, don't hit a smiling person, but as soon as her voice fell, she took 2 steps forward and grabbed Luo Zhao Xian's shoulder. With his body facing her, he pressed his entire body down. The sound of bones cracking was crisp and clear. Ah! Luo Zhao Xian's face turned red and her tears came out. She said word for word like she was suffocating. Get up. Quickly get up. It's uncomfortable. She thought that if she provoked her in the future, the other side would either speak ill of her or hurt her. It would be better if it was the latter, because she accidentally found that Qian Yi and was standing not far away. Although it was a very hidden position, there was a mark on his waist on the white marked jade pendant. But she never thought that Luo Qingxian would directly press down on her. I'm really sorry. I suddenly fainted and can't get up. Luo Qingxian deliberately imitated her strange tone as her lips curled into a faint smile. From time to time, she would use her thick legs to press down on her. Only when Luo Zhao Xian's eyes rolled back did she slowly prepare to stand up. But because she was too fat, it was hard for her to stand up. When she was planning on standing up, a pair of white slender hands appeared in front of her. She knew that it was Qian Yin, but she didn't take these hands. No need. She suddenly stood up and patted off the dust on her. She looked at Luo Zhao Xian on the ground and said through gritted teeth, "Young Master Qian is here to save the beauty?" Even now, she still didn't understand. The previous host had only gone to the desert for a while, and her big sister had died after coming back, allowing Qian Yi and to marry Luo Zhao Xian. As long as she didn't understand, she wouldn't be able to face this man in front of her. Qian Yi was surprised and wanted to say something. Luo Zhaoxin, who had already rolled her eyes, coughed rapidly. She cried to him with snot and tears, "Young Master Qian, I'm fine. You don't have to worry about me. If young Master Qian has the time to fool around with this riffraff, why don't you marry my elder sister as soon as possible?" Her eyebrows moved slightly as she narrowed her eyes and said, "After all, you've been proposing marriage for a long time. Don't you think so?" As soon as she finished speaking, she didn't wait for his reply and walked off in another direction without looking back, leaving behind a panicked Luo Zhao Xian and a sunken Qian Yin. He only felt his heart suddenly tremble, and he actually laughed self-deprecatingly. After leaving the residence, the first thing Luo Qingxian did was to go to the pharmacy to look for some formulas to lose weight. The shopkeeper was very enthusiastic. He promoted several combinations of Chinese medicine and added, "Although these herbs are more expensive, they have a miraculous effect on weight loss." Luo Qingxian glanced at them. Most of them were upgraded versions of heat-clearing and detoxifying herbs. There was nothing special about them. "All right, wrap them all up for me." Luo Qingxian opened the fan and waved it twice. The dog days were over and the weather wasn't that hot anymore. But she felt that she was afraid of the heat and she was covered in sweat after taking a few steps. As expected, fat people sweat easily. Young Master is so generous. The shopkeeper wrapped the herbs up as he said, "Since young Master cares about my business this much, I also have some inside information to tell you." Chapter 875. Today at noon, there will be a rare item auction at the Drunken Moon House in the east of the city. I heard that there will be some expensive herbs. If young Master is interested, you can go take a look." The shopkeeper said as he handed over the herbs to him. There were many playboys on the way to the auction. They heard that there were many rare items being auctioned, attracting a large number of people to watch. To enter the Drunken Moon House, one had to pay a minimum of 1,000 gold taels, so there were not many people who could enter. She had to go to the pawn shop to get some banknotes before she could enter. The private rooms on the second floor had already been reserved. Most of the people on the first floor were people like her. She casually found a seat and sat down. She ordered a pata by Luo Chun and waited for the auction to begin. At first, the items being auctioned were relatively ordinary. Although they were considered rare items, if the Luo family wanted them, it would not be difficult, until the white jade bracelet inlaid with pearls appeared on the stage. Some of the big shots on the second floor began to bid. But very quickly, they were all sold at a similar price. Until the first 10 items were auctioned, Luo Qingshun was a little interested. Because no matter if it was a rare item or a porcelain cup, it would always be won by the same person. Next, we will be auctioning something called the Transcending Emptiness Spirit Flower. This item is the sister of the Heavenly Mountain Snow Lotus. It has the effect of maintaining a beautiful appearance and a graceful figure. The organizer of the auction was very tactful, but Luo Qingshun roughly knew that this was the item she wanted. There were many people bidding on the stage. Most of them were women. After the 1 million gold taels bid, the number of people bidding gradually decreased. 150 taels going once. 200. Luo Qingshun took a sip of the Bai Luo Chun with an indifferent expression. The moment everyone's eyes fell on him, they could not help but let out a sigh. So it was a fatty. The one who bid 150 taels seemed to be young Miss Du, the second most beautiful woman in the capital. I heard that young Miss Du is acquainted with many nobles. This fatty really has some ability, daring to challenge young Miss Du on air. Luo Qingshun was very dissatisfied with these whispers. Why was it that as long as she was fat, other people's first impression of her was to call her fatty? Not polite at all. Sitting behind a beaded curtain on the second floor, a delicate female voice rang out again. 250 taels. 300. Luo Qingshun answered her almost instantly, with a touch of coldness in her eyes. There was another female supporting character on the panel. The previous host didn't have a deep impression of this character, but this Du on air was definitely not a good person. When she was judged as the #1 beauty in the capital, this girl had framed her older sister. Fortunately, there were witnesses and material evidence at the time, so the matter was dropped resentfully. Now that he wanted to snatch this so-called transcending emptiness spirit flower from her, he most likely wanted to surpass Luo Qingyan. 400. The female voice behind the beaded curtain sounded somewhat anxious. Everyone held their breaths and stared, wanting to see who would win this highly competitive item. 400 taels was not a small amount. Although the Du family was a large family, if they really took out 4 million taels to buy the transcending emptiness spirit flower, Du on air would be sitting on pins and needles. 500. Her voice was still faint and her expression did not change at all. The whispers of the audience became louder and louder. Although they were still calling her fatty, their words were quite accurate. Sure enough, this fatty really doesn't care about losing weight. That's right, young Miss Du might lose this time. Chapter 876. The woman behind the bead curtain clenched her fists, her heart filled with unwillingness. The maid beside her whispered, "Young miss, you just bid for the 6 chestnut muslin fan and the honey flower crystal hairpin. We don't have enough money." "Shut up." Du on air looked at the closed curtain across from her and said, "I can't lose, do you understand?" Others might not know who the person opposite her was, but she knew. She came to participate in today's auction because of him. How could she lose? 800. See, as soon as her voice fell, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. This desperate battle, was Du on air really just for the so-called sky-piercing spirit flower? 800 gold going once. 800 gold going twice. At this moment, everyone in Drunken Moon House looked at Luo Qingshun. Du on air behind the bead curtain revealed a victorious smile. She finally showed her face in front of that man. She won once. Luo Qingshun's slender fingers gently tapped on the table. After a little consideration, she wanted to give up. Using 1,000 gold to bid for the sky-piercing spirit flower. What if she didn't lose weight after eating it? She might as well run more, swim more. 800 gold. 1,000. Just when everyone thought that Du on air had won this auction, a pleasant and cool voice slowly rang out. This voice was different from all the previous voices, but it came from the same direction. It's that person again. This time he actually personally participated in the auction. Everything just now was bought by him. He's too rich. Quiet down, you can see he's a big shot. Be careful not to draw fire. Luo Qingshun slightly nodded, looking at the second floor behind the curtain. Her heart was slightly startled. What kind of person would spend so much money to buy the sky-piercing spirit flower? And it was even a man. You shouldn't be a homosexual, right? Behind the bead curtain, Duan Air couldn't help revealing a faint smile. She shyly said to herself, "Do you think he's giving it to me? Young miss, isn't this for sure? Young Master Hua is really good to young miss." That's right. Young Master Hua definitely doesn't want young miss to waste money, so he bought it to give to young miss. Hee. Of course I know. I don't need you to tell me that. Duan Air lightly snorted, her eyes filled with pride. At the same time, behind the curtain on the opposite side, "Young master, why did you bid for this sky-piercing spirit flower? Is it to give it to Miss Du?" A trusted guard at the side asked in a low voice. For her, a certain someone's cold eyes narrowed slightly. His deep eyes revealed a faint glimmer as he said, "I'd rather give it to that fatty than to her." He just didn't like Duan Air. She was a fake woman. Why were there no sincere women in this world? Why were all the women in the world so shallow? Over the years, there had been countless women hanging around him, but none of them caught his eye. Over time, he developed a deep sense of disgust towards women. Whenever a woman spoke softly to him, he would feel his hair stand on end. He felt his stomach churn when he saw her flattering him. It seems like China's flourishing age is going to end. Achoo! At the same time, sitting on the first floor, Luo Qingshun gave a big sneeze. Chapter 877. Coming out of the Drunken Moon house, Luo Qingshun put the banknotes back into the bank and headed towards the sea. She had wasted an entire afternoon and gained nothing. She might as well run 3 laps around the capital city with this time. She decided to find a place with beautiful scenery and clear waters to swim in to lose weight. After all, she couldn't just run around on the streets all day. At the foot of the Emperor, it was better to take it easy. She was standing on a bridge that extended outwards, and to her left was a pier. The water was very clean. It seemed like people didn't come here often. She stretched out her foot to test the water, and a chill filled her heart. So deep. Luo Qingshun pursed her lips and muttered, "I'll exchange for a swimming skill from the system later. There shouldn't be a problem." She narrowed her eyes and looked at the waves in front of her. She slowly lowered her foot and tested the time of the high tide. At the same time, Hua Suyi was passing by in his golden sedan. The guard driving the carriage saw Luo Qingshun standing by the bridge and called out in surprise, "Young master, that fatty who didn't get the piercing void spirit flower is about to jump into the sea." "What?" Hua Suyi narrowed his eyes and picked up the piercing void spirit flower beside him without any hesitation. He quickly moved towards Luo Qingshun with his qinggong. "Hey, it can't be. You want to jump into the sea just to steal a flower from you? I'll give it to you." With a sharp, pitiful cry, her foot slipped and she fell into the sea. In this silent environment, this sudden sound really made one's heart skip a beat. Not to mention that she still had a foot in the sea. "Be careful." Hua Suyi reached out to grab her, but he found that the other side's weight completely pulled him down. There was no hesitation at all. It was just this strong. At high tide, there were large amounts of whirlpools in the sea that kept pulling the two of them to the bottom of the sea, moving further and further away from the bridge. The ice-cold sea water suddenly poured in her eyes, ears, mouth, and nose. She felt an oppressive and suffocating feeling that swept over her. Her consciousness was blurred, and the power of the whirlpool was very strong. Just as her vision darkened, the hand that held her tightly pulled her fiercely, and a thin, cold lips kissed her. Ding! Affection has increased by 10. Mission completion rate is now 10%. Luo Qingshun. She really didn't hear the system's words. When she opened her eyes, she was already on a ship. There was an endless sea all around her, and there was a handsome young man beside her. He was wearing a black robe, and his eyes were deep as cold as stars. His smooth and fair face was cold and handsome with sharp edges. He stared into her eyes, looking very unfriendly. "Cuckoo." Luo Qingshun cleared her throat and said, "This young master, do you know who scared people to death? I was kind enough to save a fatty who wanted to die, and you said I scared you?" Hua Suye's face was cold, but his ears couldn't help turning red. The scene in the water kept flashing in his mind like a nightmare that he couldn't get rid of. The terrifying thing was that he didn't feel disgusted at all. Rather, his heart skipped a beat. Seeking death? Luo Qingchun said. Who wants to seek death? Can't I see how big the sea is? Shoo. He softly covered her mouth, but his heart couldn't help skipping a beat. Luo Qingchun looked at him, and her long lashes trembled. Chapter 878. I say, boatman, this batch of goods is very important. Why did you save 2 outsiders? This is different from what we agreed on. A rough old man's voice rang out with a displeased tone. Your goods were inspected before coming on board. They were all cloth. I cannot save people when I see them drowning. I wanted to send them back, but you didn't agree to turn around. The boatman honestly explained. Relax. I just explained to one of them that they will get off the boat at the nearest dock. They definitely won't affect you. It's best if it's like this. Quickly get them off the boat. The man gave a strong snort before turning to leave. Woo. Luo Qingchun softly shook her head. The moment her soft lips touched his hand, his breathing stopped. Ding! Affection has increased by 10. Mission completion rate is now 20%. Luo Qingchun looked at Hua Su Yi in front of her in shock. You are. He was actually the so-called male lead. It seemed like he was a rich person. What is a man stammering for? Hua Su Yi knit his brows, but his voice was a bit gentle. He thought about it before continuing. This boat isn't simple. You also think it's not simple? Luo Qingchun thought that since she met the male lead, she wasn't that nervous. Otherwise, she would have been scared to death. A merchant transporting cloth met 2 people drowning. How could he not save them? As long as it was a normal person, they would choose to save them. He pursed his lips and said, the docks in the capital have very strict inspections. I just asked the boatman. This boat is heading to Jiangnan. Jiangnan is a prosperous place for silk. There's no need to transport goods from the capital. Luo Qingchun's brows slightly knit as if she thought of something. She lowered her voice and said, Is there something else on this boat? When she said this herself, she felt her hairs stand on end. What is it? I don't know. Hua Suyi paused before saying, We can only investigate at night. They spent so much effort to transport something to Jiangnan, and they were in such a rush that they didn't even have time to send them back to the docks. I couldn't tell that you were a hot-blooded youth. Luo Qingchun pursed her lips into a faint smile. I thought that you were at most a playboy. This fat young master, I'm not a playboy. Hua Suyi gave a soft laugh, feeling a bit of warmth looking at this fat person. Could it be that fat people make people feel safe? What fat young master? I have a name, all right. Luo Qingchun looked at him with a dissatisfied look. Moreover, I'll lose weight, all right. What is your great name? Hua Suye's handsome face had a bit of gentleness as he looked at her with a deep gaze. It was a strange feeling. He was a little flustered that he had such feelings for such a fat man. In that instant, Luo, oh. No. She couldn't be nervous. Right now, she was a boy, so she definitely couldn't be nervous. Luo Qingchun pursed her lips and praised herself. What a handsome name. Handsome? Hua Suyi narrowed his eyes and said with a smile, Suyi, my name. I know. You know. Oh no, she said in a daze. My meaning is that I know that my name is very handsome. AI. She didn't know what she was talking about. She felt that she was having an awkward conversation with the male lead. But soon, this awkward conversation ended. Because night had fallen and everyone had fallen asleep, they slowly walked out of the cabin. Chapter 879. There weren't many people on the boat. There were only 5-6 people going back and forth. Other than the boatmen, the rest were all large men. They drank quite a bit tonight and were snoring all around. The rain was very heavy, and there was the sound of the storm hitting the boat from time to time. Hua Suye's brows twitched as he walked towards the deck. What are you doing on the deck? Luo Qingchun softly pulled on his sleeve and said, I won't save you if the wind blows you away. Don't you think it's strange? Hua Suyi narrowed his eyes and looked at the 2 people on the deck. What are you standing on the deck for in such a large storm? Luo Qingchun knit her brows and looked in Hua Suye's direction. It was indeed a bit strange. You mean, The secret of the boat is under the deck? Perhaps. Hua Sui looked up at the dark clouds in the sky and said, if there are changes to the deck, we might not be able to get through the storm tonight. Luo Qingqian heard this, and her body trembled. Don't scare me. Come, we'll test them. Hua Sui saw her panicked expression, and his heart couldn't help feeling warm. There was a sudden feeling of wanting to protect a fat man. It was very strange. Two brothers, it's too dangerous to be here in this storm. Hua Sui slowly came forward and cupped his hands, but his eyes became very deep. Both sides were surprised before looking at each other. Don't come over. Just stay here until you get off the boat. Otherwise, if you ruin our boss plans, don't think of leaving alive. They seemed a bit nervous, taking out the large blades at their waists as they looked at the two people in front of them with fierce gazes. At the same time, their eyes kept looking at a certain spot on the deck. Hua Suye's eyes lit up, and he said with a faint smile, We're leaving. We're leaving. Luo Qingqian was surprised as she looked at him with a confused look. He gave a chuckle and turned around with two darts in his hand, throwing them at the legs of the two people on the deck. Ah! There was a cry of surprise that was covered by the sound of the rain. Hua Sui jumped up and suddenly raised his hand, knocking the two of them out. The whole process took less than 3 seconds. Luo Qingqian's face instantly changed from puzzlement to astonishment. You have some skills. She slowly jumped onto the deck, only to find that the heavy rain mixed with hail hitting her body was a little painful. Don't come over. The rain is too heavy. He frowned and walked toward the valve. With a forceful pull, the secret door on the deck slowly opened. According to the structure of a normal ship, it was impossible for there to be a secret door on the deck that could be opened. There must be something fishy going on here. Seeing Hua Sui walk down the stairs, Luo Qingqian anxiously pursed her lips and said, Wait for me. She quickly walked to his side, but he frowned and said, Didn't I tell you not to come over? If you encounter an accident, I can protect you. Luo Qingqian raised her eyebrows and pushed his shoulder. Protect me? With what? Hua Sui looked over her fat body and said, Wait, you. She was instantly speechless and didn't know if she should curse in her heart or not. All right. Hua Sui looked at her with a faint smile and said, Follow behind me. If there's any danger, run. After all, you're fat. Chapter 880. The stairs weren't that long, but the more she went down, the more suffocating she felt. After taking a few more steps, she felt like she couldn't breathe. Wait for me here. Hua Sui seemed to feel something as he reached out his hand to stop her, speaking in a very serious voice. The person beside him was clearly short of breath, and her face was pale, clearly lacking in oxygen. He knew that she was holding on, but his heart couldn't bear to hold on. Luo Qingqian wanted to keep going, but hearing his serious tone, she decided not to argue with him. All right, she said in a soft voice, then be careful. Be good. Hua Sui deliberately said these gentle words. When he looked over her white cheeks, he saw a faint blush on them. Luo Qingqian gritted her teeth. When she was about to fight back, she found that Hua Sui was already far away. The reason why he didn't let her follow him was because he would proudly look at her and say, Because you're fat, you're wasting air. She really wanted to curse him. So what if I'm fat? Do I eat your family's rice? Hua Sui had been gone for a long time, and when she was about to go down with gritted teeth to find him, he was holding a child in his hand, holding another on his left, and 2 more behind him. You. Luo Qingqian looked at him in shock. Where did you go to pick up 4 children? His expression was a bit serious as he tightly knit his brows. It should be 6. 2 of them aren't breathing anymore. Luo Qingqian heard this, and her heart skipped a beat. So this was a boat that sold children. What do we do now? Luo Qingqian slightly knit her brows. In this vast sea, we can't take them away. We can't just fight them head on. Why not? Hua Suye's deep eyes had a faint chill, and just these few words made people tremble. Looks like he's going to be serious. His hidden weapon was indeed very powerful, and his skills weren't normal. It should be easy for him to deal with the people on the boat. Cough, cough. Luo Qingqian cleared her throat and said, Hero, pung. A loud crash interrupted her words of praise. Sure enough, he couldn't boast. Once he did, something would happen. The huge wind and waves on the sea made the entire ship extremely large. In the narrow stairwell, she only felt that the world was spinning. When she was about to hit the wall, Hua Suyi let go of the child in his left hand and suddenly blocked her, turning her around. After a muffled grunt, he chuckled and said, "Young Master Luo really needs to lose weight. I'll lose weight. I'll lose weight. If I can survive, I'll definitely lose weight and become a handsome young man in half a month." Luo Qingshun bit her lip and thought, "Once I'm fat, I'll regret it for the rest of my life." It took them a lot of effort to get back to the deck. There was no candlelight on the ship, and by the moonlight, they could see a small boat not far away. They ran away? Luo Qingshun called out in surprise. She found that the ship was very quiet, and even the two people who had been hit by the hidden weapon had disappeared. Hua Suyi leaned over to look at the large hole in the hull. "It seems like they hit a reef and the ship is about to sink. It can't be. I don't want to be a ghost on the sea." Luo Qingshun knit her brows and said, "I still want to lose weight." Chapter 881. She could only say that she believed him. Was there any other way if she didn't believe him? Hua Suyi stood in the storm, controlling the rudder. The wind was very strong, and if she didn't tightly hold onto the edge of the boat, she felt like she would be blown away at any moment. But Hua Suyi was incomparably calm as he controlled the rudder, slowly moving forward in the darkness. Luo Qingshun didn't know where he was going, but seeing this back, her heart skipped a beat. No matter what, he was still the capital city's young master. When he met danger, he didn't run away weakly, but rather bravely and calmly moved forward. In those sarcastic words, one could hear a bit of care in them. This was a very strange person. She clearly wanted to beat him up, but her heart felt very warm. The boat was already in a half-sunken state. The wild winds swept the dark clouds across the sea, and the high waves slammed into their faces. "Big brother, I'm afraid." Luo Qingshun suddenly turned around and saw the children behind her. They were all small and thin, but they were tightly holding onto the edge of the boat. "Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid." She didn't know what to say to comfort them. She could only believe that this strong man could go against the god of death on the sea. Voila! After that, a giant wave swept over, and the boat couldn't take it anymore as it flipped over. She felt countless amounts of seawater entering her eyes, ears, mouth, and nose. Her eyes turned dark, and it was like someone had gently hugged her before she lost consciousness. She seemed to have understood something at that moment. In this endless sea, the god of the sea was the god of death. "Dash host, quickly wake up." The system's voice echoed in her ears. She knit her brows as a dazzling light called out to her to open her eyes. The moment he opened his eyes, he saw a dilapidated boat and 4 unconscious children. Looking around, this should be a deserted island. When the boat broke apart, they should have been close to the island. It seemed like this playboy had some skills. He should have known that there was an island here, so he headed in this direction. But how did he know that there was an island here? She knit her brows as she thought of his actions last night. Wind force and direction. The host is still very smart, because if there was an island nearby, the wind blowing in that direction would be weaker, right? Yes. What are you thinking about? Why are you so engrossed? Hua Suyi had already changed into a set of clean clothes and was holding 2 fish in his hand. His lips were curled into a faint smile, looking like a spring breeze. "Damn, you even changed your clothes." Luo Qingshun looked at him with a confused face. "Where did you come from? Have you forgotten what the sheep head that sells dog meat on this ship is?" Hua Suyi pointed at the finished products in the sun. "You can change them after they're dried, but you should cut them yourself since you're this fat." As soon as he finished speaking, he kindly pointed at the unfinished cloth at the side. "Go away." She rolled her eyes and said, "The child should be fine." "Yeah, I'm fine." Hua Suyi looked at the sky and said, "There's no place to sleep nearby. There is a clear pool in front. You can take a bath and change your clothes." All of a sudden, at this moment, she felt like she was a couple taking their 4 children on an outing. Moreover, it was very strong. Then roast the fish properly. Don't burn it. She picked up the dried clothes on the ground and ran off in a panic. Chapter 882. She happily took a bath and found that this place was very suitable for swimming. There was a dense forest behind the pool, and there was a large open space in the middle. There were no footprints, so Hua Suyi shouldn't have noticed this place. At this time, she had to make it hard for the system. System, I want to exchange for a pretty good house. After all, it wasn't suitable for children to sleep in the open. Yes, but the host only has enough exchange points to exchange for a low-grade wooden house. As expected, houses were expensive no matter where they were. Exchange. Without any hesitation. She couldn't let the children suffer. Ding! 5,000 exchange points has been taken. Successfully exchanged for a low-grade wooden house. Limited to this world, a brand new wooden house appeared in front of her. Although it hurt a bit, it didn't stop her from enjoying the little wooden house. Returning to the shore, there were two children who had already woken up. There was the sound of grilled fish in the air, and she found that her stomach was rumbling when she took a deep breath. So hungry, Luo Qingchan rubbed her stomach as she excitedly sat down beside Su Huai. Is it done? You can eat the fruit first. He leaned against the fish while wrapping up the red fruit for her. It's already been washed. Luo Qingchan took the fruit and took a bite. Oh, and it was very sweet. In that instant, she suddenly thought that eating fruit could also help her lose weight. This is for you. It's a bit burnt. Hua Suyi gave the slightly burnt fish to her before giving the unburnt ones to the children. You're not allowed to cry after eating. Big Brother will see if there are any caves on this island. Yay! As if they had smelled the aroma of the fish, the two half-asleep children who were lying on the ground also jumped up and scrambled to pounce on the fish. As expected, children were children. With a bit of good things, they could forget all the bad things from before. Seeing that Luo Qingchan didn't take his fish, he said in a strange voice, "You don't want to eat? Didn't you say you wanted me to lose weight?" She took a large bite of the fruit in her hand and said, "I'm planning to eat fruit and become a beautiful young man." Then good luck. Hua Suyi put the fish in front of him with a chuckle and said while eating, "This storm won't pass that quickly. It'll come at night. I hope we can find a cave as soon as possible. Don't worry, I built a house for you." Luo Qingchan suddenly got up and said to the children in front of her, "Let's go and see the new house with sister, little brother." When Hua Suyi stood in front of the log cabin, there was a faint glow in his deep eyes. The wooden house looked very new, as if someone had just built it. "Where did you find this house?" Hua Suyi clearly didn't believe what she said about building a new wooden house. But for some reason, deep in his heart, he subconsciously believed it. "It's all made by me." Luo Qingchun chuckled. She looked at the four children and said, "Go and choose a room." Yay, yay, yay. Another round of cheers. In the evening, the sun set. The surrounding temperature also dropped rapidly, and a wave of coldness hit them instantly. Other than cloth and blankets, the dry rations have all been washed away. Hua Suyi put the useful things into the cloth bag, which included things like candles and other lighting items. Returning to the cabin, the four children were already asleep. Chapter 883. She was in a daze like she had a dream. She finally became a thin person and was no longer a fat person. There was a gentle voice that came from beside her ear, and there was a cool cloth on her forehead. "Big Brother, why isn't little Big Brother waking up yet?" A soft voice came from beside her ear, and a small hand touched her cheek, feeling soft and tender. "Little Big Brother is sick." Hua Suyi knit his brows as a trace of worry appeared in his eyes. After an unknown number of days, she finally had a bit of strength to slowly open her eyes. She touched her forehead, and it wasn't hot anymore. The person outside seemed to have heard the movement and wildly ran in. Seeing her open her eyes, he let out a sigh of relief. "You're finally awake." Hua Suyi didn't know why he felt a bit afraid, an inexplicable fear. The person in front of him was clearly a fat man, but he couldn't help feeling worried for her. He resisted this feeling, but his body was very honest. "How long have I been asleep?" Luo Qingchan touched her forehead and said, "It should be because the difference in temperature was too big." But why was it that although she was in a daze at night, she felt that she slept very warmly? 3 days. Hua Suyi gave her the porridge. There was some rice in the boat, so I tried cooking a bit. I don't know if it can be eaten, but I'll just make do with it. When he gave her the wooden bowl, his eyes sparkled a bit. "I don't feel like I'm overeating or hungry anymore. Luo Qingshun touched her face, and like she suddenly thought of something, she looked at him and said, Am I thinner? Hua Suyi was a bit surprised and couldn't help looking at her thinner face. Although there was still a bit of baby fat, it was very cute. Hua Suyi couldn't help touching his ears. You're much thinner. Really? Do I look good? Hearing Hua Suyi's words, she was a bit excited. As expected, she would become thinner after being sick. This was a blessing given to her by the heavens. Although this kind of thinning wasn't healthy, she didn't want to be sick. Anyway, it was fine as long as she was thin. A man talking about whether you look good or not. Isn't this embarrassing? Hua Suyi continued. The storm is about to pass. We have to think of a way to go back. Luo Qingshun said while drinking the porridge. Aren't we waiting for someone to save us? Then keep dreaming. Hua Suyi helplessly shook his head. You can't make a boat, but you can make a bamboo raft. Unlike you, who fell sick after being drenched in the rain. Although Hua Suyi's words seemed like he disliked her, his tone was filled with reproach. I'm sorry to have caused you trouble. When did I say you're trouble? He answered her question almost instantly. It came from the bottom of his heart, and he didn't even think about it. Luo Qingshun pursed her lips and smiled. Big brother, what are we eating for lunch? Fruit. In the next second, a certain someone's face went from full of smiles to expressionless. She had just recovered from a serious illness, yet she was still allowed to eat fruits. The moon was bright and the stars were sparse. There was a faint, earthy fragrance in the air, like the spring dew after the rain. This was their first night on the island. Hua Suyi said that it was because the storm had passed. There was a hot stove with several rabbits and fish, filling the air with a fragrance. Chapter 884. Luo Qingshun knit her brows and asked, Could it be that the rain was too loud and you heard wrong? This problem could be big or small. It would be best if they heard wrong. If they didn't hear wrong, the problem would be big. Hua Suyi also attached importance to this problem. He looked at Luo Qingshun before rubbing the little ball's head and saying, Are you certain it was an O-A-O sound? Yes. A-O-Wu. A long howl broke the silence. Right, it was this sound. The little ball jumped into Hua Suyi's embrace. Luo Qingshun's expression changed at this moment. It's wolves. It's wolves. The two spoke at the same time, making the surrounding atmosphere even more tense. Luo Qingshun knit her brows and said, If they didn't know if we were friends or foes before, now that they have declared their sovereignty, it means that they think we are enemies. That's not possible. Hua Suyi shook his head and said, Wolves have a habit of living. They like open spaces. There is such a large wooden house here. It isn't suitable for them. Hua Suyi's words made Luo Qingshun's face freeze. It can't be that this open space was where they lived or played, right? Then perhaps they are different breeds and like this kind of wooden house. Who knows? Luo Qingshun pursed her lips and said, In short, then what do they mean by calling out now? It can't be that they want to eat them, right? She wasn't very fat right now. She didn't taste good. In short, it isn't any good intentions. We have to make a raft and leave as soon as possible. Hua Suyi knit his brows. Looking at the wolves not far away, he unconsciously tightened his grip on the torch in his hand. Wolves were afraid of fire, or rather, all animals were afraid of fire. Since that day, Hua Suyi would always make a bonfire in front of the wooden house to prevent the wolves from approaching. But 3 days later, when it rained in the middle of the night, the wolves still came. Pong! There was a strong impact sound that woke everyone up. Little big brother, big brother. Whoa! The group of children had never seen such a big scene before, and they actually started to cry. Luo Qingshun glanced at the restless wolves not far away. There were more than 20 of them, and it seemed that they wanted to kill them. Bring the child to the bamboo raft. I'll restrain these wolves. Remember to be quick. Hua Suyi took off his cloak and put it over her. Protect yourself. No. Luo Qingshun looked out of the window and said, There are too many wolves. You can't beat them. You don't believe me? Hua Suyi gave a chuckle as he looked at her and said, If we survive this time, I have something to tell you. Her heart trembled, and she suddenly felt a little scared. He was afraid that he couldn't hear what he wanted to say. Okay, I'll come back to you after I settle them down. Luo Qingshun took the child's hand and ran all the way. She didn't dare turn back. She was afraid that if she did, she wouldn't have the strength to keep running. The bamboo raft was 90% complete, and there were no supporting logs, but if it was just the 4 children sitting on it, it didn't matter if there were no supporting logs. Chapter 885. After everything was done, it was up to fate. She couldn't abandon Hua Suyi because when she was sick, he didn't abandon her. She kept thinking of what he said when he was by her side. He was the emperor's 4th son, and his mother had always been the emperor's favorite. It was because of this that he was envied by others and was framed to death. The emperor loved him very much and made him the crown prince when he was 10, allowing him to become the head of the Eastern Palace. After all these years, he never married, and the emperor wasn't strict with him. There were many rumors in the court, and most of them were that he was a homosexual. Aowu. There was a wolf's howl. Luo Qingshun looked at Hua Suyi covered in blood under the moonlight, and her heart skipped a beat. There were wolf corpses all around him, and there were 7-8 wolves looking at him like tigers. Aowu. With a pitiful cry, all the wolves charged at Hua Suyi. Luo Qingshun's eyes turned cold. She jumped out with a torch in her hand and waved her right hand, blocking the wolf's attack. See, the skin on her right hand was torn by the wolf's claws, but she stood firmly in front of Hua Suyi without any hesitation. What did you come back for? Hua Suyi's face was a bit pale, and there were wounds all over his body. Although they weren't fatal, there should be quite a bit of blood. He had clearly left in such a dangerous situation. So why did he come back? Those claws clearly wanted to tear his heart. So why did he reach out to block it? He knew that the palace was filled with danger, and there had never been a person, whether it was a man or a woman, who would accompany him to death. There had never been a person. So when he had her leave with the child, he never thought that she would come back. Ding! Affection has increased by 30. Mission completion rate is now 50%. This is the same answer as why you had me leave. The prompt in her ears made her hand holding the torch tremble. There was a cold glow in her eyes as she said, "Do you believe me?" Her voice was very soft, but it was filled with a deep conviction. Since he was willing to protect her with his life, how could she leave him alone? Hua Suyi was stunned. He felt a faint warmth flowing into his heart, which was a very strange feeling. Close your eyes. I want you to close your eyes. As soon as his voice fell, Hua Suyi closed his eyes without any defenses in this dangerous situation. In the past, he had never dared to fall asleep or close his eyes in an unfamiliar environment, because he knew that many people wanted his life. If the person in front of him was an assassin, he could have taken his life at any moment. Ding! 500 exchange points has been taken. Successfully exchanged for instant freeze. Only usable in this plane. She narrowed her eyes, took the long sword in his hand with her right hand, and stabbed the wolves' feet one by one. The air was filled with the smell of blood. They should not have disturbed the life of the wild wolves. However, they didn't hurt anyone, but they were going to be hurt by other creatures, so the counterattack was inevitable. However, she still couldn't bear to stab their hearts. Once their legs were pierced, they would lose their ability to fight. It was a win-win situation. After the space-time freeze ended, all the wolves fell to the ground. She bit her lip and said to Hua Suyi behind her, "Open your eyes." In just a second, the person in front of him had killed all the wolves. Chapter 886. A day later, the bamboo raft was finished. Hua Suyi was injured, so the 4 children rode the raft. "I never thought that you would be this strong at such a young age." Hua Suyi was wearing a moon-white robe, and his face didn't look good. "Big brother, we aren't children from rich families. Our parents were poor and were sold to human traffickers." Xiao Bao's childish voice sounded, "We don't want to go back at all, but little brother said that you were injured. We have to go back quickly, otherwise you'll be in danger." His injuries were very serious. Luo Qingshun knew that, and knew that he was forcefully holding on. "Your little brother doesn't understand. He's also injured." Hua Suyi said this before slightly knitting his brows. "How are your injuries? Why won't you let me see?" "Cook." She cleared her throat and said, "I'm a clean freak. I don't like being touched by men." "So you like men who take the initiative to touch you?" Hua Suyi had a gentle look on his face as he said, "I've been touched all over by you." He he he. Good gee. The children covered their mouths as they giggled, making Luo Qingqian's face turn red. Damn, big brother, I was bandaging your wounds, all right? Luo Qingqian said. Why don't you know how to repay kindness? She knew that he was changing the topic, but she had to let him change it. Sometimes she felt that he was too smart, so smart that he could tell what she wanted to say with a single look. I can't thank you enough. Hua Suyi proudly raised a brow and said with a smile, I'll definitely thank you when I return to the capital. After she stood in front of him without caring about her life last night, he had thought it through. So what if he was a man? Why did he have to resist this strange feeling? Since he cared this much, he would care to the end. Anyway, wasn't his reputation in court like this? If it really happened one day, it wouldn't be surprising. Luo Qingqian heard this and was suddenly stunned. She instantly remembered that she was a man and felt a bit panicked. She said, Tell me, if you found out that your good brother lied to you one day, what would you do? Kill him. Hua Sui narrowed his eyes and said, What I hate the most is being deceived, not to mention being deceived by a good brother. She was stunned and looked a little embarrassed. Hua Sui seemed to notice something as his deep eyes sparkled. Could it be? You're lying to me about something? Luo Qingqian raised her eyebrows and said, I'm not your brother. What's wrong with lying to you? What did she do? She was also in despair. She was so fat back then. She looked like a landlady when she wore women's clothes. It was an eyesore, all right? Who says you are my brother? Hua Suyi patted her shoulder and said, We've already been through life and death together since we met on the island. Life and death friends? Luo Qingqian swallowed her saliva and said, Don't tell me this is what you wanted to tell me that night. Oh. Hua Suye's fingers trembled and his deep eyes dimmed. No. Then what do you want to say? Luo Qingqian blinked, her clear eyes staring blankly at him. Looking at him, her heart was in a mess. No, he couldn't panic. He couldn't care about what other people thought. He just had to be firm in his thoughts. Chapter 887. Luo Qingqian tilted her head, and the four kids also tilted their heads, innocently looking at Hua Suyi. Hua Suyi was stunned by this, and touched his ear in a cute manner. Are you willing to be my life and death friend? We are already life and death friends. Luo Qingqian pushed the four kids beside her. Don't you all think so? That's right. The young and tender voices in unison warmed people's hearts. The bamboo raft floated to where the ship had hit the reef. They waited for a day and a half before a cargo ship finally passed by. It was a cargo ship heading to the capital from Jiangnan, and the boatman picked them up. After several twists and turns, they finally returned to the capital. It had been half a month since they parted. It was like she had been reborn, losing an entire 20 kilograms. After a serious illness, she really did lose a lot of weight. Her current figure was just right, and although there was still a bit of baby fat on her cheeks, she looked very cute. When she smiled, 2 faint dimples appeared on her cheeks, making her look especially sweet. Luo Qingqian before had to eat 10 meals a day to be full, but in this half a month, she had eaten less than 10 meals, so it was hard for her not to lose weight. As expected, hungry. This was the most important thing, to lose weight. I'll take the 4 of them. Cuckoo. Go home first. Hua Suye's face was a bit pale, and his moon-white robes had a trace of blood red, but his eyes were still deep. All right, she said with a nod. Take good care of yourself. We'll meet again if fate allows. As soon as her voice fell, she slowly turned around and took 2 steps before unconsciously turning back to say, We will meet again, right? Of course. Hua Suye's handsome face revealed a warm smile. I will look for you. I'll remember your name. My name? Quickly go back. Hua Suyi said, I'll watch you leave. She was a bit surprised. Gritting her teeth, she turned around and walked forward. This time, she didn't turn back. He, the crown prince, had been missing for half a month. The court and the harem must have been filled with blood. Parting was for the sake of making the so-called preparations. It was for the sake of welcoming the best reunion. As for the Luo family, they must be in an uproar. She used to be dressed in light blue and had a picturesque appearance. When she walked through the market of Chong and city, she would inexplicably receive the attention of many girls. "Young master, do you need a folding fan?" A peddler suddenly walked up to him and said with a smile, "Young master is so handsome. How could you not have a simple and elegant folding fan?" As he spoke, he looked at his daughter behind him. The young girl pursed her lips with her handkerchief and shyly lowered her head. Luo Qingshun was stunned. She revealed an extremely embarrassed smile and said, "Boss, I'll borrow your bronze mirror." "Young master, please, young master." The peddler fawningly handed the bronze mirror to her. The moment she received the bronze mirror, she froze on the spot. Reflected in the mirror was a delicate and pretty face. Her thick eyebrows were slightly raised rebelliously, and under her long and slightly curled eyelashes were a pair of eyes as clear as morning dew. Her lips were slightly red like rose petals. This really was an elegant and beautiful young man. The surrounding gossips also entered her ears at this moment, causing her to unconsciously feel a little flustered. "This person is so handsome. He doesn't look familiar. He should be a foreigner. My daughter likes this kind of handsome young man. He looks so elegant and gentle." "You really changed quickly. You even said yesterday that your daughter liked men." They gave her a sense of security. Chapter 888. Luo Qingshun quickly walked in the direction of the Luo Manor. When she came in, she was stopped by the housekeeper. "Who is it? Do you have a visiting card?" Uncle Lu, I am Qingshun." She looked like she was choked up. Even Uncle Lu didn't recognize her after she lost weight. Just how fat was she before? Uncle Lu narrowed his eyes and narrowed them again before standing up. Second miss. "Master, second miss is back. She's back." Uncle Lu shouted as he ran in. Luo Qingshun didn't have time to stop him. Her eyebrows moved slightly as she touched her ears and murmured with a chuckle, "This feels pretty good." Taking 2 steps forward, she thought that the first one would be her big sister Luo Jinyan. But she never thought that it would be Qianyin. Under the setting sun, the hibiscus flowers in the yard were perfect. With a warm breeze, the petals fell down, and there was a faint floral fragrance in the air. Qianyin stood against the light with tightly knit brows. There was a bit of surprise in his deep eyes before they were filled with worry. "I'm back." Before she could say anything, Qianyin charged over like a wild man and tightly hugged her. His arms tightened, almost making it hard for her to breathe. "It's a good thing. It's a good thing you're back." His voice trembled a bit as he choked up. At this moment, she suddenly felt her mind go blank, and the depths of her heart churned violently. This was the previous host's emotion, but it was also a kind of excitement. Subconsciously, she thought that she could never get close to this person, but he was suddenly this close to her. After a while, she closed her eyes and calmed herself down. She slowly broke free from his embrace and said, I'm back." Her tone was very indifferent, without any fluctuations at all. Qianyin was surprised as a bit of disappointment flashed in his eyes. He said with a sigh, "Jinyan was very worried about you after you went missing, so I came to help look for you when I wasn't on duty. Uncle and Aunt were very worried. Where did you go? How could you disappear in a thin air?" "This is a long story." She looked at Qianyin and said, "Is big sister all right while I was away?" She suddenly felt a little flustered. The time she left this time was different from when the original owner went to the desert. However, he felt that the plot was very similar and felt a little uneasy. "It's nothing big, just a small matter." Luo Qingshun frowned, and the uneasiness in her heart grew stronger. "Recently, Jinyan has been a little sleepy. We've also found a famous doctor in the city to take a look, but they didn't find anything wrong with her." Qianyin looked at his white robe and knit his brows in thought as his eyes sunk a bit. It was as if he wanted to continue watching. And then, Luo Qingshun saw that he didn't continue. She suddenly raised her eyes and looked into his deep eyes. He was a little flustered and looked away. His thin lips were slightly pursed as he said, "You'll know when you see it first." Luo Qingshun, who originally had a trace of hope, felt that Luo Jinyin's sudden sleepiness wasn't as simple as it seemed. Chapter 889. "You talk first. I'll be at the door. Call me if you need anything." Qin Yin looked at Luo Qingshun before the door slowly closed. Qing, just where did you go? Why didn't father find any news of you after using so many people? Luo Yin tightly held her hand with a concerned look. She spent an hour explaining what happened before saying, "In short, I escaped death. I'm fine, it's just that you." "I'm assured hearing you say this." Luo Yin let out a sigh of relief. "You don't even know that you suddenly disappeared. Young Master Qian was very worried about you. Love the house and its crow, I know." Luo Qingshun looked at her pale as paper face and said, "Big sister, I heard Qian Yin say that your body hasn't been good recently. When did it start?" Luo Jinyan's face didn't look normal, and it could be healed with medicine. It was impossible for it to have no effect at all. "Me?" Luo Jinyan shook her head. "Don't worry about me. I'm fine. It's you? You've lost quite a bit of weight. If I didn't think about you every day, I wouldn't have recognized you at first glance." Luo Jinyan was very gentle, softly patting her head without saying a word. She kept saying, "Now that you're back, my heart is much more assured. Perhaps it'll be better in a few days. Big sister, rest well. I'll have the kitchen cook something you like. We'll eat together tonight." Luo Qingshun saw that she was a bit tired and gave a soft laugh. She narrowed her eyes with a bit of coldness in them. "All right, I'm also a bit tired." Luo Jinyan rubbed her temples. "Jinger, you have to call me for dinner. I have something to tell you." There was a bit of sadness in her eyes. Li Guang's eyes sparkled, revealing a sadness that others couldn't understand. When she opened the door, Qin Yin was still standing there. He was leaning against the doorpost, looking so good that he was glowing. "Come with me. I have a few questions to ask you." Luo Qingshun narrowed her eyes and pulled Qin Yi into the pavilion in the back garden. He was slightly startled, and his heart unconsciously skipped a beat. "I don't have much time to waste, so young Master Qian, please answer my questions as thoroughly as possible." Luo Qingshun looked around before cautiously looking at Qin Yin. "What's wrong? Are you worried about Jinyan's body? I also think that recently she—" "The first question," Luo Qingshun directly interrupted him. "Has there been any change in the maidservants around her recently?" "How did you know?" Qin Yin was surprised. He looked at Luo Qingshun, who had tightly knit brows, and said, "The original Xiao Tao left to take care of her mother because of her illness. This one? This one is the smartest one selected by Master Luo from this batch of new maids. I think her name is Ning Er." Qin Yin saw her serious expression and couldn't help asking, "Why are you asking this? Is there something wrong?" "I won't tell you if there's anything wrong." She looked up with cold eyes, and her lips curled into an indifferent smile. "Qin Yin, whether you're friend or foe, I'm a bit doubtful. The previous host's memories weren't wrong. Qin Yin married Luo Zhao Xian in the end. She didn't know why. Or perhaps there would never be an answer to this reason." Chapter 890. Qing Chun. Qin Yin was surprised, clearly never thinking that this elegantly dressed young man with a face like jade would say this to him. The memories of drinking and talking in the Drunken Moon house were still vivid in his mind, but now, why did she say this? "Forget it. I'll ask you a second question." Luo Qingshun slightly knit her brows as she looked at him. "When I was gone, did my big sister eat anything different from usual?" "She shouldn't have," Qin Yin said with a frown. "She ate most of the meals with Master Luo and Madame Luo. I also came sometimes, but I didn't feel anything strange." Luo Qingshun knit her brows and pursed her lips. "You really didn't feel anything strange? Did something happen to Jin Yin?" Qin Yin had a bit of worry in his eyes. "You're suddenly this serious. It's not like you." Although Luo Qingshun wasn't considered elegant in her male disguise, she was still a person with fine features. She was carefree and didn't care about trifles. He had never seen her knit her brows when she was worried about anything. "It's fine," Luo Qingshun said. "Have dinner with big sister first." She asked Qin Yin these questions because, 1, she wanted to know why Luo Jinyan's body suddenly became bad. 2, she wanted to know if Qin Yin was a friend or foe. His eyes were very sincere, so unless he was very shrewd, he shouldn't have any bad intentions. Ning had the kitchen prepare dinner. It was all light dishes. Ning, it wasn't bad. Her skin was white and her eyes were fine. Ning, greets the second miss. She gave a slight nod and didn't say anything else. Luo Jin Yin had already woken up. Her face was still very bad, but her eyes were very clear. Have you gone to see your parents? She looked at her gently, her eyes full of love. Luo Qingqian said with a nod, I just want to see them. Mother must have missed you, but big sister kept you here for dinner tonight. Luo Jinyin turned to Ning, and said, let the kitchen make some pastries that the second miss usually likes to eat. She hasn't been home for so long. She must be hungry. Sister, there's no need. I'll eat whatever you eat. Luo Qingqian looked around and fixed her eyes on a few pots of flowers outside the window. She turned and asked, Sister, do you like to grow flowers recently? Before Luo Jin Yin could speak, Ninger interrupted. There were a few green willows here, but they withered due to the heavy rain. That's why Ning asked and transplanted a few pots of flowers from the garden for eldest Mrs. Eyes. This flower. Luo Qingqian nodded slightly, a faint light flashing her eyes. How long has this flower been here? These flowers have been here for more than half a month, second miss. Did I ask you? Ninger, who tried to speak, was cut off by Luo Qingqian. Her eyes turned cold as she looked at her with a dark look. You don't even know your place as a servant? Uncle Lu said that you were smart. It seems like his eyes really are blurred. Ning gritted her teeth and muttered in an unconvinced voice, Aren't I helping the second miss? Pa. A slap landed on her face. Luo Jin Yin and Qian Yi were stunned at the same time. Ning looked at her in shock. She didn't expect her to slap her so quickly. Chapter 891. Ning saw that the situation wasn't right, and she quickly knelt down to complain. Ning doesn't remember. Luo Jin Yin quickly said in a gentle voice, Qing should have gotten these flowers from the housekeeper. It should have been around half a month ago, when she first came. That's right. Second miss. These flowers were given to Ning by the housekeeper. It was like she had found a mountain to rely on as she cried even harder. Ning doesn't know what she did wrong for the second miss to treat Ning like this. Luo Qingqian ignored her and slowly stood up as her eyes fell onto the table. Qingqian, seeing that she was about to stand up, Qian Yin pulled on her sleeve. What is wrong with you? This was his first time seeing her ice-cold eyes. It was like she was burning with rage when she hit people. But this was her first dinner since coming back. So why did it feel like something big was about to happen before they even started eating? You mustn't pull, otherwise you're an enemy. Her eyes didn't leave the table when she said this, but Qian Yin knew that she was saying that she could hear it. He felt his hand lose its strength in an instant, and it slid down softly. She walked to the table and slowly stood up to take the incense burner. Sniffing it twice, there was a faint mint scent that filled her nose. Second miss, those are mint leaves. Ning's expression became very nervous when she stood up, and she unknowingly stretched her neck out when she picked up the incense burner. She didn't feel that the mint was familiar. Rather, she felt like she had seen this incense burner before. She raised the incense burner slightly. Closing her eyes, the memories of the past kept flashing in front of her eyes. 10 seconds later, she suddenly opened her eyes and looked at the orchids on the windowsill before looking at the ashes in the incense burner. There was a serious look in her eyes. This incense burner was a gift from the Drunken Moon House auction half a month ago. The main item was the illusion mint leaf that had the wonderful effect of sleeping. Mint fantasy leaf had a miraculous effect when used for sleeping. But every medicine had its pros and cons. This illusion mint leaf grew in the southern wetlands, so it was hard to cultivate and there weren't many finished products. Thus, they were considered treasures in the south and were highly sought after in the capital. At that time, she didn't pay much attention to the host's introduction of the taboo of the illusory peppermint leaf. The only thing she remembered was that the illusory peppermint leaf couldn't come into contact with orchids due to the soil and climate. Otherwise, when these two harmless things were mixed together, they would form a terrible poison, the mint fantasy orchid. Long-term consumption would lead to mental paralysis, cold hands and feet, weakness in the body, and eventually death due to respiratory failure. It seemed like the Luo family didn't know she had gone to the auction alone. If she hadn't recognized the incense burner, she wouldn't have known how Luo Jin had been poisoned. Mint leaves? Luo Qingshun took the incense burner and walked slowly to Ning. She looked at her coldly and said, "Are you sure this is its name?" Qianyin took the incense burner in her hand and sniffed it twice before saying, "It should be mint leaves, but it's a bit strange. The spice made of peppermint leaves would not have such a strong peppermint smell after it was burned out." This was something that all the young ladies and young masters of large families knew. Chapter 892. I'll give you one last chance. Do you want to tell the old master that you're the mastermind? Or do you want me to lock you in this room and let you enjoy the wonderful experience of the mint illusion orchid? After that, Luo Qingshun suddenly grabbed her clothes and said, "I already said that I'm not a patient person. If you're honest, I'll give you a path to life." "Qing'er, what is going on?" Luo Jinyan looked at her in a panic as her heart kept beating fast. This was her first time feeling that her little sister was this strong. Each word gave people a suffocating feeling. She really almost didn't recognize her. "Big sister, this kind of deceit is not suited for you." Luo Qingshin looked at Qinyan and said, "Take care of my big sister." "Second miss. What mastermind, what illusion orchid?" Ning doesn't understand. Ning Er's lips kept trembling, as if she couldn't take the aura that Luo Qingshin brought. She kept shaking her head as her eyes filled with fear. "All right." Her brows slightly twitched, and her clear eyes were dyed with a faint trace of blood. Her lips curled into a cold smile as she said, "You don't want to walk the path to heaven, but you're throwing yourself into the gates of hell." As soon as her voice fell, she dragged her towards Luo Zhao Xian's room. Along the way, Ning kept calling out to her. She only said a few words back and forth. Second miss, Ning doesn't understand anything. Ning is innocent. Second miss, you can't treat Ning like this. Although Ning is a girl, she is still a person with flesh and blood. "Ah, save me, save me." As she dragged Ning away, she did not forget to have a conversation with the system. "System, I need a weapon. Also exchange for a weapon skill for me. 9-section moon whip. This is the best time for the host to fight." The system looked like it was enjoying the show. "Giving the skill for this item? I won't send you off. Exchange." Although the system was very good, she had to be handsome if she wanted to fight. Ding, 3,000 exchange points has been taken. Successfully exchanged for the 9-section moon whip, permanent use. Ding, 500 exchange points has been taken. Successfully exchanged for the 9-section moon whip skill, limited to this world. She decided to make good use of this whip. The next time she used it, she wouldn't need to exchange for a skill. Pung! Luo Qingshin stood at the door of Luo Zhaoshan's room. She waved her right hand and threw Ning to the ground. In the next second, the door to the room was directly opened. The first one to walk out was Luo Shu, who didn't look too good. It seemed like he was going to spend the night at this aunt's place again. "What are you doing in the middle of the night?" Luo Shu stood with his hands behind his back. After all, she was his daughter. He said with concern, "You just came back. Why aren't you resting?" "I don't have time to rest." Luo Qingshin's cold eyes narrowed. Looking at Luo Zhao, who swaggered out, Luo Qingshan thought, "Do you know her?" Luo Zhaoshan originally had a leisurely look, but the moment she saw Ning, her whole face instantly turned pale. I don't know her." She bit her lip and said, "Big sister, what are you doing? You're disturbing father and mother's rest." "It seems like you won't cry until you see the coffin." Luo Qingshin narrowed her cold eyes and waved the 9-section moon whip in her right hand, grabbing her neck. With a strong pull, she fell in front of her. Chapter 893. Luo Qingshin gave a cold snort and increased the strength in her hand. At this time, her eyes were filled with killing intent. She narrowed her eyes and looked at Luo Zhao Xian's mother, Liang Mei Shui. Her voice didn't have a trace of warmth as she said, "Hand over the illusion mint leaves, otherwise I'll send your daughter to hell right now." As soon as her voice fell, the strength in her hand increased by a bit. Liang Mei Shui was stunned. Looking at her daughter's white eyes, her heart couldn't help twisting together. She naturally knew what the illusionment leaves Luo Qingxuan was talking about were. Since she was able to bring Ning here, it meant that she already knew everything. What should she do? At this time, she was still hoping that Luo Shu would protect them. At that time, as long as they pushed the responsibility to the girl, everything would have nothing to do with them. But could the head of the family really protect them? Luo Qingxuan, stop for me. Luo Shu angrily roared. You guys quickly grab her for me. As soon as Luo Shu's voice fell, several servants surrounded her. Although they looked a bit embarrassed, they still knew that they had to listen to the head of the Luo family. Just based on them? Luo Qingxuan gave a cold laugh. The 9-section moon whip fiercely pulled at Luo Zhao Xian's neck, leaving a red mark on her white skin. In the next second, her left foot stepped on Luo Zhao Xian's body, and her right hand waved the 9-section moon whip. Her eyes were cold as she looked at Luo Shu and said, Don't talk nonsense. If you want to fight, then come at me together. The servants looked at each other in dismay. Under this atmosphere, they didn't dare to move forward. But with Luo Shu's order, they had no choice but to move forward. The leader, Uncle Lu, could only bite the bullet and say, Young miss, I'm sorry for offending you. Xiao. Before Uncle Lu's voice fell, all the servants fell to the ground. They held their knees and let out miserable cries. Luo Qingxuan's 9-section moon whip hit the nerves of their knees in a tricky manner. It wasn't fatal, but it was very painful. The entire process took less than a second. Luo Qingxuan stepped on them with her left foot and sneered, It seems like I should be the one apologizing. Mother, save me. Luo Zhao Xian cried out in pain, but her eyes were still filled with hatred. Master, quickly save Xian. What did Xian do to deserve this treatment? Liang Meishue's heart, as she looked at Luo Zhao Xian's heart, still holding on to her luck. Luo Shu's eyes and hers, a strange domineering hands. His brows furrowed tightly as he looked at the servants on the ground. He said angrily, What do you want to do? With Luo Lin. Tishi narrowed her cold eyes and looked like a storm was coming. The malice in her eyes almost froze the people around her. I don't understand what you're talking about. Liang Meishue bit her lips and said, If you're not satisfied with us, then come at me. Why do you have to make things difficult for Exit? She's your sister. Liang Meishue was still betting that Luo Qingxuan was just pretending and didn't dare to do any real harm to Luo Zhao Xian. But she didn't expect that as soon as she finished speaking. Luo Qingxuan picked up the 9-section moon whip and slightly bent down. The sharp whip cut a wound on Luo Zhao Xian's wrist where her pulse was, and hot blood flowed out in an instant. Chapter 894. Liang Meishue saw the blood flowing out of Luo Zhaoxin's wrist and exclaimed, You're trying to silence her. You have to pay with your life. Liang Meishue didn't expect that Luo Qingxuan would do such a terrible thing. Her eyes were like a demon from beginning to end, looking down at them like ants. What? You're allowed to hurt my sister, but I'm not allowed to hurt your daughter? She disdainfully snorted. I'm afraid of trouble. You know what you've done? According to the speed of bleeding, your daughter won't be able to be saved in less than half an hour. I have time to wait, but I'm afraid your daughter can't wait. As she said this, she didn't forget to step on Luo Zhaoxin's foot. Her body twitched, and she closed her eyes unconsciously. The blood was flowing fast, but Luo Qingxuan's expression was calm like an outsider. What did you do? If you don't say it, I can't save Shiner's life. Luo Shu turned his eyes and held Liang Meishue's shoulder. Say it. What illusionment leaf? What did you take from her? Luo Shu was a smart person. Luo Qingxuan did this desperately and said it with such a firm tone. There must be a reason. At this time, Liang Meishue still wanted to hide it. She couldn't help but feel how deep this woman was. Liang Meishue bit her lips and looked at the blood flowing out of Luo Zhaoxin's wrist. Her heart was like stone and finally softened. She took a deep breath and said, Xiao Fong, go and take out the illusionment leaf under my pillow. Liang Meishue was very clear that that as long as she admitted that the illusion mint leaf was in her room, she would lose. She didn't expect that after scheming for so long, she still lost. Liang Meishue thought that she was better at conspiracy than anyone else. Ning was a scapegoat. Even if it was exposed, she could take the blame for them. After all, Ning Er's parents were in their hands. She had to listen to them. But she didn't expect that Luo Qingshun would show her cards in a direct way. This was a terrifying method that left her completely at a loss for a moment. A demon-like person approached her step by step, not giving her any chance to breathe. He went straight for her vitals. She had no way out, no choice. 2 hours later, Liang Meishue was kneeling in the hall, her face pale. Luo Zhaoshan had fallen into a coma due to excessive blood loss, and the doctor was saving her life. Luo Shu glanced at Luo Qingshun with a deep dark light in his eyes. Her daughter had really changed. That difference actually made him feel fear. Now that he recalled her every move, he felt his hair stand on end. Master, it was my fault for doing this. But this has nothing to do with Xian Xian is innocent. Liang Meishue cried, while not forgetting to complain. Luo Qingshun can't treat Xian like this. If something happens to Xian, I definitely won't let her off. Liang Meishue, I really don't need you to let me off. She paused and then sneered, because I don't plan on letting you off. Enough. Stop quarreling. What kind of family is this? Luo Shu's eyes turned cold. The smell of the illusion mint leaf and the orchid will produce a strong poison. Yenner has already been inhaling it for half a month. You, hand over the antidote. I'll treat this as a family matter. Chapter 895. Luo Qingshun frowned when she heard this. Looking at Liang Xuemei's pale face, she knew that she wasn't joking. Luo Shu's face darkened, and he didn't look good. He always knew that Liang Xuemei's thoughts weren't pure, but he didn't think that she would use such a despicable method like poisoning. We have to think about this at length. Luo Shu sighed and said, Uncle Lu, go and invite all the famous doctors in the city to treat Mississippi. Master, you have to save Xian. She's your daughter. You can't let someone with ulterior motives kill her. Liang Xuemei's face was covered in tears and snot. Those who didn't know would think that she was the victim. Ulterior motives? Luo Qingshun gave a cold snort as she looked at her with cold eyes. If I want your daughter to die, I'll definitely do it openly. Listen carefully, Liang Xuemei. You better pray that my sister is fine. Otherwise, I can't guarantee that your daughter's corpse won't be intact. You, presumptuous, under the feet of the emperor, is there no law? Luo Shu angrily knocked on the table and said, Your father isn't dead yet. You're too presumptuous. Luo Shu was so angry that his face turned red. He was a little afraid of this arrogant daughter of his, but he had to suppress this fear in his heart and bring out the aura of a family head. Unfortunately, Luo Qingshun didn't buy it. She could understand a father who married a concubine. In ancient times, she couldn't accept having 3 wives and 4 concubines, but that didn't mean that she couldn't understand. But a father who allowed his concubine to bully his wife and kill his daughter. He was an irresponsible father. Such a person didn't deserve her respect. History was too similar. The most important reason why she was so resolute was she couldn't let the tragedy of the parallel world happen again. If that happened, she would lose all meaning in coming here. Luo Qingshun narrowed her cold eyes and said word for word with the Book of Luo, Law? I really don't care. I'll leave it here. Her eyes flashed with a sharp cold light. If my sister doesn't live, I'll make sure your daughter is buried with her. Don't think about running. You can't run. When she said the last sentence, the dark light in her eyes made people tremble uncontrollably. This kind of aura made Luo Shu, who was originally angry, speechless. He wanted to find an excuse for himself. His cross-dressing daughter was just arrogant words to scare people. But he was very clear in his heart that Luo Qingshun in front of him was serious about everything she said. She would kill Luo Zhaoshan. SSSS. But SSSS. is also right. Success. S was T. The doctors kept shaking their heads when they came out of Luo Jinyan's room, making her feel very unsettled. You found out this early. Nothing will happen. Relax. Qianyan sat down at the door with her. His brows were slightly knit, and there was a bit of worry in his eyes. Chapter 896. What am I waiting for? His eyes trembled as he said with a self-deprecating laugh. Your big sister didn't tell you. What should she tell me? Luo Qingchen gave a helpless shrug as she said with a faint smile. I don't know when you two fell in love. We were brothers in the past. I knew when you first saw my big sister. You don't know anything. Qianyan cut her off. Actually, second miss, the young miss wants you to come in. The maid Xiaoguo's voice suddenly rang out, cutting off Qianyan's words. Got it. Luo Qingchen nodded before turning to Qianyan. What did you want to say? She didn't like to listen to half of something. She always felt uncomfortable listening to it. Qianyan said with a sigh, Go in first, we'll talk later. Seeing that he wasn't in a rush, she didn't force him and followed Xiaoguo into the room. There was no one in the room at this time. The doctor had already gone to report to Luo Shu. Luo Qingchen slowly came forward. Seeing her pale face, her heart couldn't help skipping a beat. In the end, she couldn't let this big sister who loved her to the bone live a peaceful life. Qing'er, come over. Luo Jinyan waved her hand at her with a bit of love in her eyes. Do you feel better today? Luo Qingchen sat down beside her and gave a sigh. If she hadn't left the house in these days, she would have noticed the problem and wouldn't have. Why have you been sighing recently? Luo Jinyan gently caressed the ribbon on her hair and said, Although Qing used to be a gluttonous little fatty, he was always laughing and carefree. Now that you become this beautiful, you're always worried. Big sister, be assured, she said with a frown. When you're better, I'll still be the happy Luo Qingchen. I know I won't get better. Luo Jinyan helplessly smiled bitterly. The doctor said very clearly that the poison has already spread to my heart. If I don't get the antidote within 3 days, I won't be able to live. There were not many people in her life that she was worried about, but the only one she was worried about was her younger sister. Then find the antidote within 3 days. Luo Qingchen bit her lips and said, I'll go look for it. Everything has its counter. It's not like no one has ever been poisoned by the peppermint mirage orchid. There must be an antidote. Okay, listen to me. Luo Jinyan rubbed her head. Since young, there have always been more people around me than you. I've always felt sorry for you and wanted to compensate you as much as I could. Sister. She closed her eyes and her eyelashes trembled. She bit her lip and said, Don't make it sound like we're going to part forever, okay? When I get the antidote, we can... Qing'er. Luo Jinyan took a deep breath and looked at her with a touch of sadness in her eyes. There's something I wanted to tell you a long time ago, but big sister was too selfish and never said anything. Luo Qingchen narrowed her eyes and watched as the tears in Luo Jinyan's eyes fell down drop by drop like pearls. Chapter 897. At that moment, Luo Qingchen felt her body tremble and her heart couldn't stop beating. Most likely, there were some of the original owner's thoughts in this. What did you say? She said in a hoarse voice as she looked at Luo Jinyan in disbelief. Yes, I like him, so I never dared tell you. Luo Jinyan said, I know that I'm an incompetent big sister. I was there the day he proposed to father, but I actually told him that you weren't interested in him. She cried very miserably, so miserably that when she tightly held Luo Qingchen's hand, it couldn't stop trembling. After a while, Luo Qingchen softly patted the back of her hand. I indeed wasn't interested in him. What I'm describing is herself, not the original owner. The moonlight at night was very bleak, with a bone-chilling chill. Luo Qingchen stood outside the main hall, listening to the conversation between the doctors and Luo Shu as her brows knit even more. Qin Yi and slowly walked over to Luo Qingchen. She made a gesture to him, and he stopped, standing beside her. The poison that young miss is poisoned with is definitely not an ordinary poison. The mint fantasy orchid formed by the combination of mint fantasy leaves and orchids is not something that people like us can cure. All of the experienced doctors suddenly felt helpless at this moment. Luo Shu's expression was very serious. The Luo family's position in court wasn't stable now, and Luo Jinyan was his last trump card. Now that she was poisoned, what should they do in the future? Just tell me, how much time is left? Luo Shu closed his eyes with a serious look in his eyes. The doctors looked at each other in blank dismay. If we can't get the antidote in less than 3 days, the young miss will. You mean that my daughter can only wait for death? Luo Shu's eyes turned cold as he slammed the teacup on the table to the ground. Everyone trembled as they took a step back. At this time, one of the doctors came forward to say, I've heard that the antidote for the mint illusion orchid is called Miracle Tears. It's produced at the peak of the snow mountain. There were only 3 bottles sent to the capital last year. It has the miraculous effect of curing poison. 3 bottles? Luo Shu seemed to have thought of something. Could it be Concubine Lian's bottle, the 8th king's bottle, and the Crown Prince's Eastern Palace? Yes, the doctor replied. The reason why Luo Shu could remember this matter so clearly was because this so-called miraculous tears had once caused a murder case in the palace. Back then, the emperor had given one of the bottles of wonder tears to the beloved young mistress Yu. Little did she know that the harem was a dangerous place. It was rumored that young mistress Yu had shown off in front of imperial concubine Lian. The next day, she slipped and fell into the water, losing her life. As a result, one of the bottles ended up in concubine Lian's hands. As soon as his voice fell, Luo Qingchun ran out the door without even thinking. Qian Yi and anxiously said behind her, You're going to find concubine Lian? She, T's right T-test, right? Qian Yi and S's palace T's Coney concubine Lian was the most powerful woman in the harem. She didn't have a child. The 8th king's mother died early, so the emperor gave him to concubine Lian. The two of them are people with ulterior motives. In this large palace and harem, they had done many things that harmed others for their own benefit. And their common enemy was the crown prince, who said I was going to concubine Lian. Luo Qingchun said with a soft snort, I can't enter the palace at this time. Then who are you going to find? Qian Yan followed her with a worried look in his eyes, afraid that this little girl would do something stupid. Chapter 898. Luo Qingchun never thought that it wouldn't be that easy for her to enter the Eastern Palace. After all, the place where the crown prince lived wasn't a place one could casually enter. Who is it? Don't wander around here, or I won't be polite. Before she even came to the door, she was stopped by 4 guards. Qian Yan quickly pulled her to the side and said to the 4 guards, This one is the Imperial Guard Qian Yan. She is my little brother. I'm normally a bit playful, so I've offended you. So it's Guard Qian, I've offended you with my tone. Please forgive me. The guard leader narrowed his eyes. His Highness hasn't been feeling well lately. If you want to visit, please send me your name card first. We're all in this line of work. Guard Qian should understand. Understood, Qian Yan said in a deep voice. Please tell His Highness that the Imperial Guard Qian Yan wishes to see him. I will pass on Guard Qian's message, but it's already late, so I ask Guard Qian to take your little brother back. The guard leader looked at Luo Qingchun in disdain, with a face filled with hostility. Luo Qingchun naturally couldn't wait that long. She bit her lip and said, Go and tell His Highness that a young master surnamed Luo is here to see him. AI, you going too far? The guard leader pulled out his weapon and said, Guard Qian, your little brother is this naughty. You should take him back and discipline him. Although the Crown Prince's Eastern Palace isn't as strict as the Royal Palace, it isn't a place you can enter as you please. You, Luo Qingchun gave a cold snort. All right, just wait and see. As soon as her voice fell, Luo Qingchun turned to run, moving very quickly. Qian Yan gave a sigh before explaining to the guard. When he chased after her, he found that Luo Qingchun had already disappeared from the street. Ding! 500 exchange points has been taken. Successfully exchanged for teleportation, one-time use. System notification. The host only has 500 exchange points left. I hope the host will cherish them. Inside the Eastern Palace, in a cold side hall. Because he had never been here before, he couldn't enter the Eastern Palace's treasure vault. He had no choice but to teleport from outside to within the walls of a courtyard. At this time, Hua Yi was leaning on the couch, and his mind was filled with a little fatty. No, a certain handsome young man. Inch by inch, it was impossible to get rid of. Reporting to your highness. Yu walked in and cupped his hands to report. I have already investigated all the residences in the capital with the surname Luo. There are a total of 8 households, and 2 of them are officials in the court. But the strange thing is that no one is named Luo Chun. Hua Ye's fingers tapping on the table stopped as he said, as expected, she wasn't telling the truth. After a long time, he thought for a while and continued to ask, then how many men are there between the ages of 16 and 18? Replying to your highness. Yu glanced at the name cards in his hand and said, a total of 5. Bring the 5 of them back to the Eastern Palace tomorrow. There can't be any delays. Hua Ye's face was still a bit pale, but he couldn't suppress the strange longing in his heart. This was his first time feeling this. He wanted to resist it, but he also wanted to move forward. Whenever he thought of something, he would always tell himself that he didn't have a brother he could rely on. So he missed his life and death friend. Chapter 899. After about half an hour, she found the location of the treasure pavilion. A treasure like the miracle tears was most likely to be placed in the treasure pavilion. Luo Qingxuan tiptoed and pushed open the door of the treasure pavilion. She flicked the flame in her hand, and the room was filled with dim light. The treasure pavilion in the East Palace was very clean and very clearly classified. Someone probably came to clean it every day. The first floor of the treasure pavilion was mostly filled with porcelain, calligraphy, and paintings. The second floor was filled with elixirs and supplements. The elixirs and supplements had their names written on the bottles. She was not afraid that she would get it wrong. Although the miracle tears were a precious antidote in the eyes of the public, it could not cure all poisons. Therefore, it was not considered expensive in a place like the East Palace. She searched for less than a quarter of an hour and found this thing. It was a small blue and white porcelain bottle with a touch of light fragrance. The 2 words miracle tears were written on it. Getting the elixir went very smoothly. Of course, it went very smoothly when she exchanged for teleportation. She wanted to exchange for teleportation directly, but she only had 500 exchange points now. If she used it, she would have to live like an ordinary person in this plane. She did not know what would happen in the future. She had to leave a backup plan for herself. Thinking of this, she put the miracle tears in her pocket and slowly walked out of the treasure pavilion. She could go deep into the palace walls at any time, but it could not be that there was not even a low wall. She took a deep breath and took out a 9-section moon whip from her portable space. She walked forward while sticking close to the wall. There were many guards on duty in the East Palace at night, but there was also a time to change shifts. Every shift was more relaxed. She followed this and walked in the direction of the servants' dormitory. Because as far as the eye could see, the palace walls there were the lowest. Little did she know that she had calculated the time to change shifts in the route she would take. But she did not expect someone to shout loudly to stop her. Little brother, it's really little brother. Xiao Qiu rushed up and threw herself into her arms. She said in a very loud voice, little brother, it turns out that big brother is super rich and lives in such a big house alone. There are no more howls in the middle of the night. So I came out with Xiao Bao to pee. I didn't expect to bump into you. Who's talking? Before Luo Qingxin could respond, the 4 bodyguards at the door just finished their shift and rushed in her direction. Luo Qingxin couldn't help but frown when the light was on. Just as she was about to run, she realized that Xiao Qiu was hugging her waist tightly. Sigh, what a pig-like teammate. So it's you. I didn't let you in just now, but you dared to barge into the Crown Prince's Eastern Palace. The leader of the guards drew his sword and said, capture her. If she resists, kill her. What the hell? Kill without mercy. Don't kill little brother. Xiao Bao instantly stood in front of her and said in a childish voice. The guard leader frowned and said to the 2 men behind him, you 2, take the children away. Don't hurt them. As soon as his voice fell, he pointed his sword at Luo Qingxun and said, as for you, obediently surrender. Otherwise, don't blame me. Chapter 900. Audacious. The guard leader angrily roared out. Tell the archers to catch the assassin. Yo, 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 you can't beat me, and you're looking for an accomplice. Luo Qingshun gave a cold laugh as the 9-section moon whip flew out in his direction. Show! The guard leader jumped out and dodged this attack. He tightly gripped the sword in his hand as he stabbed it at her. Her lips curled into a faint smile as the 9-section moon whip appeared in her hand, tightly wrapping around his sword like a vine. You want to show off with just this bit of skill? Luo Qingshun gave a cold snort. You're not afraid of making your subordinates laugh their heads off? You! The guard leader's face turned red from anger as he tightly bit his lip and angrily roared. You can all go for me. Yes. In an instant, Luo Qingshun was surrounded by 4 people. She pulled the 9-section moon whip in her hand, and the guard leader's sword fell to the ground. Everyone looked at each other in blank dismay before pulling out their swords at the same time, wildly slashing in Luo Qingshun's direction. She gave a cold snort, and her figure flickered as the 9-section moon whip in her hand flowed like water. In less than 10 rounds, the 4 guards had fallen to the ground. When she was about to laugh at them, the arrows from the eaves flew out in her direction. In an instant, there was a series of ping-ling, ping-lang sounds that rang out in her ears. Qianyin had a sword in his right hand as he stood firmly by her side with an arrogant look in his eyes. Good Qianyin. The guard leader held his wound as he stood up shakily. An imperial guard trespassing in the Eastern Palace. Do you know that this is a death sentence? As a guard, you don't pass or report. You just want to get off work quickly. This kind of person, are you qualified to talk about a death sentence in front of me? Qianyin narrowed his eyes as the sword in his hand released a faint cold glow under the moonlight. In the cold wind, every word was filled with power. This was Luo Qingshun's first time seeing Qianyin like this since she came here. There was no hesitation or hesitation. He was like a lighthouse, standing firmly beside her. Suddenly, she understood why the host liked this kind of man. He was handsome and full of righteousness. Not good. Just as the guard felt that his heart had been pierced, the housekeeper trotted over and said in a panic, "The treasure pavilion has been broken into." As soon as his voice fell, Qianyin looked at Luo Qingshun beside him with a bit of worry in his eyes. Sure, not only are you assassins, you're also here to steal. The guard leader roared. Archers, get ready. The 2 assassins who broke into the Crown Prince's Eastern Palace are not willing to surrender. To ensure the safety of the Crown Prince, kill them without mercy. You go first. Qianyin frowned and pulled her behind him. You still have to save your sister. Guard Qian, it's too late for you to be a hero and save your brother. The guard leader laughed disdainfully. Release, then you'll be buried with them. Luo Qingshun gave a cold snort. She waved the 9-section moon whip in her right hand and grabbed the guard leader's neck, pulling him in front of her. In the next second, his left hand was around his throat. Don't! Release the arrows. The guard leader immediately panicked, and his firm voice softened. Don't be impulsive. We can talk things out. Chapter 901. Just based on him, can he make the decision? Mou fell from the sky with a clear jade sword in his hand, aiming at the guard leader's neck. Luo Qingshun reacted very quickly, letting go of her left hand and moving back to avoid Mou's attack. But she didn't know that his sword was moving in Qianyin's direction. Qianyin clearly never thought that Mou would be this skilled, so he couldn't react at that moment. Luo Qingshun was stunned, and at the same time, she used the 9-section moon whip to block it. The guard leader who had fallen to the ground took advantage of this and stabbed his sword at Qianyin and at the same time. Luo Qingshun didn't have time to think as her left hand grabbed the blade and blood dripped down. Qianyin was stunned and wanted to fight back, but he found that with 2 shio sounds, a unique hidden weapon hit the guard's leg and a killing intent filled the air. When she saw Hua Suyi again, she was stunned on the spot. She was still holding the guard leader's sword as her eyes turned red. Who is it who used a hidden weapon to hurt an old man? Scram for me. The guard leader held his leg as he turned around. His expression froze, and he stuttered as he said, Your Highness. Still not letting go. Are you slow to feel pain? Hua Sui slightly knit his brows as his cold eyes filled with a bit of blame and worry. When his eyes fell onto Qian Yin, there was a bit of hostility in them. Luo Qingchun trembled, and her hand holding the sword suddenly let go as the sword fell to the ground. "Your Highness, you're here. These two are bandits and assassins. They broke into the Eastern Palace's treasury in the middle of the night and stole treasures." The guard leader saw that his savior was here and immediately kneeled down to report. It was like he was afraid that Qian Yi would punish him for neglecting his duty. No matter what, this Qian Yi was an imperial guard. His words had a bit of weight. "Greetings to your Highness." Qian Yi kneeled down and said, "Our friend has a strange poison that can only be cured with a miracle tear. That's why he took the risk to break into the palace. He's definitely not an assassin." As he spoke, he tugged on Luo Qingchun's sleeve, indicating for her to kneel and salute. She was slightly taken aback. She frowned slightly and was about to kneel down. That cool and pleasant voice said, "When did I ask you to kneel?" As soon as he finished speaking, he narrowed his eyes and looked at the blood dripping from her body. He turned to the housekeeper beside him and said, "Summon the imperial physician, quickly." These short words instantly made the atmosphere at the scene become strange. Not to mention the shock guard on the ground. Even Qian Yi had a bit of confusion in his eyes. He kept recalling what Luo Qingchun had said to the guard at the entrance of the Eastern Palace. Go and report to His Highness the Crown Prince that a young master, surnamed Luo, wishes to see him. Coupled with the Crown Prince's reaction, could it be that they knew each other? "Your Highness, my injuries are not serious. Your Highness must punish the thief and assassin who broke into the Eastern Palace. Kill one as an example." The guard leader suddenly didn't give up. He had a final thought that the imperial physician was called for his brothers. "Thief? Assassin?" His cold eyes narrowed as he looked at the guard leader kneeling on the ground. "Whatever she wants, as long as the Eastern Palace has it, she can take it." Chapter 902. His tone was very cold, and each word made one's hair stand on end. It was like he was protecting a treasure, not allowing anyone to harm it. Ding! Affection has increased by 10. Mission completion rate is now 60%. He never thought that he would meet her here. When the two kids called out for their little big brother, he didn't believe it first. He never thought that the assassin MOU heard about would be her. He couldn't sit still at that moment as he flew over. MOU was an expert with the sword, and his martial arts were one of the best in Jianghu. On the way here, he could clearly feel that there was a bit of fear in the depths of his heart. When Hua Sui said this, Qian Yin was certain that Luo Qingchun knew him, and their relationship wasn't normal. The guard leader was a smart person. A person that could be protected by His Highness definitely wasn't a normal person. Yes, it was this servant who didn't recognize Mount Tai. The guard leader immediately kowtowed to Luo Qingchun and said in a trembling voice, "I hope the young master won't take this to heart. Sorry, I broke into your manor in the middle of the night." Luo Qingchun slightly knit her brows as she looked at Hua Sui with a complicated gaze. "My big sister is seriously ill and doesn't have much time left. I can't thank you enough. I will definitely come to ask for forgiveness in the future." Her tone was very strange, and her eyes were serious. Hua Sui gave a self-deprecating laugh. "You're saying these strange words because of him?" But when he thought of how she had desperately held the sword to save the man beside her in that dangerous situation, without knowing why, he felt very dissatisfied. Adding in her strange tone, he felt like his lungs were about to explode from anger. Luo Qingchun saw the dissatisfaction in his eyes and wanted to say something, but she took it back. In the court, there were already rumors that His Highness was gay. She was currently dressed as a man, so if she said something she shouldn't say, there might be a storm of blood in court tomorrow. After a while, she took a deep breath and said, "This medicine is very important to my big sister. Let me go first." "You're injured. Where are you going?" Hua Sui reached out his right hand and pulled her to his side. Qian Yi, kneeling on the ground, didn't even have time to react, as Luo Qingchun was already standing in front of him. "You." Luo Qingchun anxiously pursed her lips and whispered, "Let go of me first. It's not good for your image." What's wrong with that? Hua Suyi gave a cold snort and said with the aura of a young master, "Give him the medicine. I didn't say that I wouldn't let him leave." Luo Qingshun was stunned, never thinking that Hua Suyi would say something like this. The surrounding guards, and even Mo Yu were stunned. In the eyes of others, Hua Suyi must be very strange right now. Facing the assassin who broke into the Eastern Palace at night, he was both gentle and domineering, giving off an inexplicable feeling of doting. Luo Qingshun saw him tightly holding her hand and quickly took out the miracle tears from her pocket for Qianyin. "Take it back first. Then you." Qianyin wanted to say something, but Hua Suyi's ice-cold eyes glared at him. He could only cup his hands and say, "This servant will leave now." Chapter 903. In a magnificent palace, there was a faint smell of sandalwood. After the doctor saw that it was only a flesh wound, he let them leave and helped her bandage her wound. There was only her and Hua Suyi in the palace, and there was a faint, ambiguous feeling in the air. "Looking at your appearance, you're not surprised who I am?" He carefully bandaged her wound as he spoke with a faint reproach in his voice. Luo Qingshun was a bit surprised as she said, "Didn't you say it when I was sick?" Hua Suyi suddenly reacted and muttered, "So you were pretending to be asleep? I swear to the heavens." Luo Qingshun quickly shook her head and said, "I really was in a daze. I only heard the gist of it. All right, I forgive you. But there is something that can't be forgiven." Hua Suyi raised his right hand and tapped on her forehead. "Your name is a lie, right?" So when she asked him what would happen if she lied to someone, it was because of her name. Although he was a bit angry, it was a small matter. Moreover, she was injured today and his heart ached for her. So how could he bear to blame her? "Name?" Luo Qingshun was surprised. She seemed to have thought of something as she pursed her lips and said, "Then, Honorable Your Highness, if I hid other things from you other than my name, would you be angry?" "Angry?" Hua Suyi's slender fingers softly slid across the bandage on her wound. "Cut it off." "Ah." Luo Qingshun's lips curled into a faint smile. "It can't be that serious, right?" Originally, she wanted to take advantage of this favorable time and place to tell him that she was a girl. However, the timing didn't seem to be suitable now. "Of course, I hate being lied to the most," Hua Suyi said with a faint smile. "Other than your name, I feel that you have nothing worth lying to me about. Could it be that you're one of Concubine Lian's people?" "Concubine Lian?" Luo Qingshun was a bit surprised before saying with a faint smile, "If I knew Concubine Lian, why would I come to your Eastern Palace to steal the antidote? Could it be that you don't know that Concubine Lian also has the miracle tears? I'm really not interested in her." Hua Suyi slightly knit his brows. The dispute between the court and the harem is too complicated, but as long as it doesn't affect me and the Empress, I'm not interested in what tricks Concubine Lian wants to play. These days, because he had not yet chosen a crown princess, and 8th Wangye had another son, the emperor was even happy. Concubine Lian, 8th Wangye, and the young imperial grandson were getting more and more powerful. This made the empress very worried. "Empress," Luo Qingshun blinked and said, "Later, you were brought up by the empress." Hua Suyi said with a nod. "Mother had a son and a daughter, but they were all killed by the harem." "What the?" Luo Qingshun's eyes trembled. "Even the empress's child could be killed. You must have encountered many assassins in the Eastern Palace all these years." Seeing how calm Hua Suyi was when he spoke, she couldn't help feeling pain for him. The sons of the royal family weren't truly happy most of the time. The more glory they had, the more risks they had to take. The matter of me being injured has already been sent to the palace. Concubine Lian will definitely think of a way to deal with me. Hua Suyi slightly knit his brows. "I'll have Mo Yu send you back tomorrow morning." "Right. I still haven't asked where you live." Chapter 904. Hua Suyi narrowed his eyes as he looked at her with an inquisitive gaze. "Just what kind of secret do you have that you're afraid I'll—" "Come. Stop." At this moment, she only felt her heart beat faster, and her cheeks flushed red. This blush couldn't help spreading to her ears. She seemed to know what he wanted to say, but she couldn't hear him say it like this. If she was wearing women's clothing at this moment, if she was a woman in his heart at this moment, it would be all right. Your Highness doesn't know this, but my family is poor and my big sister is seriously ill. It's a small hut, so don't go. Luo Qingshan nodded with a serious look. Next time, next time. Hua Sui gave a shrug and said with a faint smile, up to you. Anyway, it's too easy to find you now. After all, her relationship with the Imperial Guard wasn't bad. Humph. Why wasn't he willing to admit that the Imperial Guard was related to her? The next morning, Luo Qingshan left the Eastern Palace early. It was like after spending a night in the Crown Prince's palace. There was no one around her in the Eastern Palace. Everyone seriously bowed to her when they saw her, and their respectful appearance made her unconsciously a bit nervous. When she returned to the Luo Manor, Luo Jin was already asleep. Qian Yin was sitting on the stone bench outside her door, looking like he hadn't slept at all. Is big sister better? She narrowed her eyes and sat down in front of him. He nodded and gave her a cup of green tea. The doctor said that her heart is gradually stabilizing and her complexion is much better. His tone was a bit unfamiliar, but there was a sadness that no one knew about. That's good. She took the tea from him and said, I'll leave big sister to you. Qingshan. When she was about to stand up, Qinyan grabbed her sleeve and asked, Are you close to the Crown Prince? With a breeze, the hibiscus petals slowly fell down, and there was a rich fragrance in the air. After a long time, she slowly turned around. Her serious eyes were filled with faint liguang. She looked at him and said, Yes, very familiar. His feelings towards you aren't the same. Qin Yin didn't let go, as if he was waiting for an answer that he would never get. I know. She smiled faintly, and a small hibiscus flower landed on her light blue dress. The scene seemed so beautiful. He seemed to want to retreat, but he hesitated. After a long time, he still didn't say a word. Qian Yin, I know that some things can't be forced. She looked up at him. But if you're good to her, she will definitely be very happy. This private chat was probably the last time the two of them would talk face to face like this. Some things that were impossible were simply impossible. Since then, he had learned all the things that he didn't know before. Luo Qingshan had no feelings for him. 3 days later, Luo Jinyan's body gradually got better. But Hua Sui didn't come looking for her. As the crown prince, it was as easy as turning his hand to find someone among the common people. When she didn't understand, Qian Yin brought some news from the palace. The crown prince had been grounded by the empress. The reason was, he had a man in the Eastern Palace and slept in the same bed. Chapter 905. Crown Prince's Eastern Palace. Pong. There was the sound of porcelain falling to the ground. Hua Sui closed his eyes and said in a deep voice, If you don't let me out, don't blame me for not showing mercy. If it wasn't for his mother spoiling him, who could lock him up in the court? Your Highness, don't be anxious. The Empress is doing this for your own good. That's right, Your Highness. Now that the rumors are spreading, you should listen to the Empress. The two maids anxiously kneeled on the ground, afraid that he would do something out of line. After all, concubine Lian was very jealous of him. It was unknown why the news of him leaving a man in the Eastern Palace that night was leaked. The Emperor flew into a rage and had the Empress put him under house arrest, as well as beheading all the rumors. Rumors? He closed his eyes and took a deep breath as he muttered, What if they aren't rumors? Your Highness, don't scare these servants. The two maids looked at each other in blank dismay when they heard this, as their hearts filled with panic. The Empress is here. When the two of them were at a loss, the Empress came. You can leave first. Yes, Empress. Stop playing. The Empress came over and tightly held his hand as she brought him to the side. Concubine Lian and the others spread rumors that you didn't like before. This one didn't believe it at all. But this time, it seems like it was spread by your confidants in the Eastern Palace. So what if it is, and what if it isn't? Hua Sui clenched his fist and said, This child has the right to choose. Nonsense. The Empress seriously looked at him and said, Your father is very angry and is already helping you choose a princess. This time, it isn't up to you. As the Empress, she had been enduring all her life. After her 2 children were killed, she couldn't find the truth for them. She could only walk step by step in the harem like she was walking on thin ice. She sincerely supported Huasuyi. Now that the emperor's health was deteriorating and the crown prince wasn't willing to marry a princess, what would happen if the eighth prince took her first? Princess? Huasuyi gave a cold snort. I won't marry. I definitely won't. At the same time, in the imperial court, the matter of the crown prince has already spread like wildfire, and it has indeed hurt the dignity of the imperial family. This subject boldly asks your majesty to come up with a good plan to quell this storm. The Minister of Revenue, Deng Run, stepped forward, his eyes flashing with a deep dark light. The emperor coldly snorted and said, I have already asked the empress to choose some women of equal social status to marry His Highness the Crown Prince. But your majesty, Deng Run continued, if His Highness the Crown Prince is unwilling, what should we do? How do you know he is unwilling? The emperor looked at Deng Run with dissatisfaction. Could it be that you know him better than I do? No, no. Deng Run saw that the emperor's face had changed and immediately greeted him with a smile. I heard that the eighth princess consort is pregnant again. Congratulations to the emperor for having another little grandson. Humph. The emperor laughed disdainfully. Not only does Minister Deng know about my crown prince, you even know about my harem and have the ability to predict the future. Little grandson? How do you know the gender of the baby as soon as it's born? This subject doesn't dare. Deng Ren hurriedly kneels and says, This subject asks for your forgiveness, your majesty. Chapter 906. After Deng Ren read the report, he kept shouting that he was wronged, but he was already taken away by the guards. Although he wanted to play a little trick and help the eighth prince, the emperor was not easy to deal with. No matter which faction it was in the court or the harem, they all had to be balanced. However, in his eyes, he had never wavered on who would inherit the throne in the future. Since this matter has been discussed, then this one will discuss the crown prince's marriage with my beloved ministers. The emperor stroked his beard and said, According to the list the empress gave this one, there are a total of 5 women in the court that are compatible with the crown prince. As soon as his voice fell, he looked at Eunuch Lu beside him. Eunuch Lu passed the name card to the ministers. After a bit of discussion, a second-rank minister came forward and said, This official thinks that Lord Du's daughter Duan Heir is a good match for the crown prince. Lord Luo's daughter Luo Jin Yan is said to be the #1 beauty in the capital. If she can become the crown prince's wife, she would be a perfect match. Another minister saw Luo Jin Yan's name and also stood out. At this moment, Du Xian looked at Luo Shu with eyes full of hostility. Everyone knew that the emperor loved the crown prince. If she could become the crown prince's wife, her career would be smooth. The emperor nodded. The empress also thinks that these 2 women are the most suitable, but this one thinks that beloved Minister Luo's daughter would be more suitable for the crown prince. After all, the crown prince is a bit impatient, and the Luo family is a scholarly family. They would complement each other. What do you all think? Yes, yes, yes. With the emperor personally speaking, everyone agreed. However, Du Xian's face was a bit ugly. After all, he still wanted to climb up to this level of relationship. However, if the emperor didn't give him a chance to climb up, then there was nothing he could say. This official has 3 daughters. Luo Shu stood out and cupped his hands. The eldest daughter, Luo Jin Yin, is the #1 beauty in the capital. She's been in poor health recently. The 3rd daughter is a concubine's daughter, the 2nd daughter. Then it's the 2nd daughter. The emperor's face was a bit unhappy as he cleared his throat. This one will leave this matter to the empress. Beloved Minister Luo, don't disappoint this one. Luo Shu was a smart person. Seeing the emperor's unhappy expression, he didn't dare say anything else. He could only kneel and express his thanks. Thank you, your majesty. In fact, this was a show to weaken the power of the previous dynasty. Anyone who was in the know could see that. The emperor was weakening the 8th prince and imperial concubine Lian's power. The matter of the crown princess was just an entry point. Today, regardless of whether or not it was the Luo family's daughter, it could not be Duan Heir. Everyone in the court knew about the relationship between the Du family and imperial concubine Lian. Today, he suppressed Du Xian. 8th Wangyan naturally knew that if he wanted to get the position of crown prince, it would be too difficult. If the emperor didn't want to give it to him, then no matter how many tricks he and imperial concubine Lian conspired, it would all be for naught. Luo family residence. Big sister, are you feeling better today? Luo Qing Chun gave her the millet porridge as her lips curled into a faint smile. She nodded, her eyes filled with joy. Yo, what you so happy about? Her eyebrows moved slightly. Your male idol confessed to you? You. Luo Jin Yin was stunned and looked at her in shock. It can't be you. In Chapter 907. Big sister, you're thinking too much. Luo Qingchen shook her head. How could I control Qin Yin? However, she had been present when he had proposed marriage. Luo Shu's expression was a bit ugly. After confirming that he had thought it through, he gave a sincere nod. After walking out of the hall, he said to her, This is what I owe her. I will repay it for the rest of my life. But it's impossible for me to feel the same for her as I feel for you. But this will always be a secret in my heart. Her shoulders trembled, but she didn't turn back. This was the best ending for her, and Qian Yin, there was no other ending. Then why did he suddenly? Luo Jin Yin shyly lowered her head, revealing a beautiful face. Big sister is beautiful. Luo Qingchun raised her hand and pushed back the hair in front of her forehead before saying, You're really beautiful. Being able to marry the #1 beauty in the capital is Qian Yin's fortune. All right? No. Luo Jin Yin shook her head and looked at her with a certain gaze. It's my fortune. Big sister, I always wanted to ask you something. She leaned on the bed to the side and looked at her. Why do you like Qian Yin? Luo Qingchun still didn't know why the cold and aloof Luo Jin Yin would like Qian Yin, although most of the men who liked her were lecherous. But there were a few gentlemen who didn't lose to Qian Yi and in the way they spoke. Would you believe me if I told you it was love at first sight? She gently held her hand. I never believed in love at first sight before, but that feeling was very strange. It's as if all the blood in my body is boiling. Ha. Luo Qingchun heard this and said with a laugh, Is it that exaggerated? It is, she replied. I just want to get closer. I want to get closer. I want to get closer. Seeing Luo Jin Yin this happy, she felt very happy. Although she didn't know why Qian Yin in that parallel world would become like this, at least he was this charming right now. As long as you're happy, I think everything is fine. She closed her eyes, her long eyelashes trembling slightly as she smiled with dimples on her face. Elder sister is such a good person. You're the most qualified to be happy. Actually, she paused for a moment, her eyes still carrying a gentle smile as she looked at her and said, I know that young Master Qian doesn't like me, but if he's willing to marry me, I'll still be very, very happy. Luo Qingchun suddenly opened her eyes and looked at Luo Jin Yin with tears in her eyes and a smile on her face. She would probably never become someone like her. If the other party didn't like her, she would still like them. I really didn't expect Big Sister to be such a person. Luo Qingchun gave a soft laugh and said with a shrug, I always thought that you were a very cold and proud person. If someone doesn't like you, you won't even spare them a glance. No, I used to think so too, but after meeting him, I no longer feel that way. She shook her head and firmly said, Whether he likes me or not is his matter. Whether I like him or not is my matter. Young miss, second miss, the master wants you to go to the front hall. He has something to announce. Xiaobo quickly charged in with an ugly expression. Chapter 908. There was no one in the hall other than Luo Shu. All the servants had left. Luo Shu was sitting in the center with a serious look in his eyes. Luo Qingchun casually sat down and poured herself a pot of tea. She shook the teacup and took a sip. Dad, just tell me what you want. She could tell from Luo Shu's expression that it definitely wasn't anything good. It's father who has let you down, Luo Shu said with a sigh. The emperor has personally decreed a marriage. The Luo family will be executed if they try to stop it. There were rumors in court that the crown prince was gay, so the emperor had no choice but to find him a crown princess. But it was impossible for the crown prince to be satisfied with this crown princess. Even the empress couldn't persuade him. Although becoming the crown princess was the Luo family's fortune, it was the misfortune of the person marrying him. He thought that his eldest daughter had already taken a trip to the gates of hell by marrying a concubine. Now that Qin Yin had proposed, it was impossible for him to let Luo Jin Yin marry into the palace. That was why he said those words in the imperial court today. But he never thought that before he could refuse for his second daughter, the emperor's face would turn dark. The Luo family's position in court wasn't the same as before. He didn't have a chance to refuse at all. Father, Luo Jin Yin took a step back as her brows trembled. Who is the emperor granting this marriage to? It's me, right? Luo Qingchun slightly knit her brows as she drank the tea in her hand. I won't marry. Qing although the crown prince is gay, if you treat each other with respect, I won't marry. Luo Qingchun cut Luo Shu off, but when she touched her ear, she seemed to have heard something else. The next second, she blinked and said, Who were you talking about? The crown prince? Yes, Luo Shu said with a sigh. I was reprimanded by your mother yesterday. The children's matters should be left to you. I'm old and wanted to retire from court, but I never thought. I'll marry. She pursed her lips and said with a faint smile, Father, don't say any more. I'll marry. Without knowing why, she was looking forward to Hua Su Yi seeing her in female clothes. After all, after being in this world for so long, even she had never seen herself in female clothes. Qing Luo Jin Yin tightly clenched her fists. Father, let me marry the crown prince. I'm not afraid of being gay. I can live with respect, but Qing Er's way. Why not? Luo Qingchen said. I feel it's fine. No, definitely not. Qing Er's eyes. Qing Er's as Qing Er's as his elder sister. I can't be so selfish. Luo Qingchun gave a serious nod before turning to Luo Shu. When are you getting married? Qing big sister. Luo Qingchun bit her lip in an awkward manner. This matter is a bit complicated. I'll tell you in the future. In short, it will be better for me to marry into the Eastern Palace than you. Why? Because, she narrowed her eyes and said, I know him. He definitely isn't gay.